Recording in progress.
Okay, thanks. All right. This is a public meeting of the Wellfleet Selectboard, Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. Time is now 6:02 p.m. And as customary, we will start with announcements and public comments. As always, public comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker. The board will not deliberate or vote on any matter raised solely during announcements and public comments. With that, do we have any announcements on the board?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Josh?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to let the public know that my next office hours are March 2nd at 12 p.m. on the second floor of Town Hall. That's a Monday.
I do have some.
Sheila?
I also have started office hours, and they will be February 9th, Monday, 1 to 2:30, right here in the conference room in the back.
Oh, thank you. Anyone else on the board or town administration?
No, I'll wait till the end of the meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Just very quickly, because we haven't had a meeting since, I just want to thank the DPW and their staff for many days of hard work. That was more snow than most of us expected or planned for. And I'm just appreciative that, basically staff was working for days, day after day after day, nights included, and we just need to recognize that effort. So thank you.
Here, here.
All right. Anyone else? Okay, in that case, anyone in the room wish to make a public comment or have an announcement?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Westonson, Herring River Restoration Project. I just wanted to let the board know and the general public who may be tuning in or here in person, just know that we are underway with the low-lying roads contract. There has been construction updates that have been going out on a weekly basis, just notifying people what's cooking. But I did want to take this opportunity to let people know that we would really be starting in earnest on the main alignment. That's kind of like from the dump north into Truro along Boundbrook Island Old County Road, starting tree clearing next week, Monday. That tree clearing is anticipated to take roughly, I think we're penciling in a month with the hopes that we can accelerate that. But just want to take this opportunity to let you all know and try to keep you as informed as possible. And
That reminds me.
Thank you.
Contrary to some of the Facebook rumors, the town is not contracting tree clearing services to clear Maurice's campground at this time. We have a lot of different projects. This is one of them where tree clearing is necessary, but people should take a broader view, and that's all.
Thank you.
Yep, and I guess just to round it out, I anticipate keeping that main drag open to traffic. I'll have detail officers at either end of the crew and one detail officer with the crew. If we find that untenable or hazardous, we may implement a detour, but I'm looking to avoid having to do that. But just want everybody to be aware of that. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
One question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Sorry, Wes. What do they do with the wood?
They chip it typically.
Okay, so they don't put any out for people who may need it for cordwood or things like that?
I could talk to the crew and see if there's any.
There may not be any wood
Yeah.
that's worthy of it, but.
Just in terms of the efficiency of moving it, it moves much better as chips and logs. So
Yes, I understand. I'm just, it's been a cold winter. and
yeah, no, I
that's all.
understand. And if there is something that we can do, I will let you all know. And if
All right, do they sell it? I mean, do they,
no, I don't think they're.
they don't? Wow, okay.
Well, to go on, I guess I think the subcontractor for the contractor is
Yeah.
going to be Cape Cod Firewood,
Okay.
who's going to be doing that tree clearing. So I think their name says it all. So
That answered that
all
question.
right, there you go.
Somebody's selling it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else in the room? Did you have something? I thought you got up.
No, I
got up to let him in. Oh, okay. All right. Anyone else in the room? Seeing none, is there anyone online? All right, Ms. Arcamano, you want to unmute?
Thank you, Chairperson. I just, a few things. Just want to thank Gary Sorkin for his leadership on the Maurice's Campground Planning Committee, and sorry to see him go because he was a great leader. And number two, I want to ask that the board appoint Marianne Boswell as a full voting member now that we have a vacancy. And the third thing is both the planning board and the select board have asked for meetings with the Maurice's committee, and I'd like to see those get scheduled as soon as possible. Thank you so very much. That's all I have.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have? Okay, Kathleen?
Good evening, Chair. Thank you, everyone. Getting back to Tom Garino's question about the wood, I believe in 2018, the Select Board developed a loose policy with the DPW that if it was town, trees that were coming down, that they could be taken to the transfer station and set aside, not cut and split, if you will, but set aside for people that did heat their homes with wood. I know Jay Norton is in the audience tonight. Maybe he might consider that there are a large number of trees coming down with regard to this project that could be used for home heating fuel. And that's something that, if it could be done, I hope that the town administrator and the DPW could support that somehow. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Okay, Fran?
Yes, hi. Just wanted to give an update in terms of the Finance Committee. The budget was presented to you from the town administrator as scheduled on January 15th. And then everyone's schedules and the weather has sort of conspired to delay that. And so I think we're going to miss the various hurdles or the various deadlines that we had set for ourselves. Just wanted to, remind the board that the schedule for the joint meetings between the Finance Committee and the board are now scheduled for next Monday, the 9th, in 3 weeks on the 23rd, and then a Thursday night on the 26th. And I can confirm that we are able to get a quorum from the Finance Committees at those meetings, and so I don't see any reason, pending another storm, why that would not happen. But just sort of a heads up that we will be running behind schedule. I have received a spreadsheet with the capital budget. I don't know if that has been distributed to the select board or not, but we are still expecting some textual descriptions of those projects to go with it. And it would be great to be able to consider those department by department as we meet with them over the next several weeks. The first draft of the budget, the Finance Committee did their format of the department by department over a multi-year period. There were some shortcomings, some deficiencies in that. And there was a cover memo when we set it, when we distributed it. The town administrator and I spoke earlier today, and we're going to try to meet together with the town accountant to iron some of those out and hopefully have another draft of that budget book to everyone in advance of the next meeting, which is, it's going to be a tight turnaround since it's next Monday, but we're hoping we're able to achieve it. The two major deficiencies, just in, if you start looking at the budget in advance of those meetings, is that The salaries are not generally broken out by position as they have been in the past. There's a couple of departments that have that detail, but the vast majority of the departments do not yet. The town accountant requested that from the departments, and once we get it, we will update update it for that accordingly. And then, and this is something that, if you remember, we had an issue with last year where Vadar did not pick up some budget lines from the prior year, and so it is they are missing from the fiscal 26 budget. So the 26 budget does not agree with the amount that was approved at town meeting.
Fran, we're running past the 3-minute mark.
Okay, just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Thank you, though.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else online?
No. We're good.
All right.
Jay?
Jay, did you?
Good evening, members of the board. Jay Norton, DPW Director. I just want to acknowledge Ms. Bacon's comment. I know we can't deliberate the topic, but just want to let her know that we'll take it under advisement.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, last go around in the room. 1, 2, 3. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone on the board have anything they would like removed from that? In that case, I'll take a motion.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll move the consent agenda, but would you like me to recite the individual businesses that we're renewing the licenses of?
Yes. I
Sure.
guess.
Okay, so the consent agenda is renewal of the common victualers licenses for the following places: Cape Cod Espresso Bar, Wellfleet Cinema Drive-In and Flea Market, Lobster and Chowder House, Wellfleet Motel, Flying Fish, Harbor Stage Company, Seashore, and the Bookstore Restaurant. So I move the consent agenda approval of these license renewals.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Brian, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
Josh, aye.
And John, aye. Passes 5-0. Moving on to public hearing. Application for a special one-day event, one-day liquor license received by Van Renslayers of Wellfleet on Saturday, February 14th, 2026, to serve all alcohol for a private event. I will now formally open the public hearing. And do we have anyone presenting?
Diane Hall is online.
All right. Hi, Diane. You'll have to unmute.
Right here.
Hi, this is Peter Hall.
Oh, hi, Peter.
It's a celebration of life for our chef's mother, and it's a spot she wanted to have it. There shouldn't be a very large party, but we just thought we needed a one-day license just to make sure that we were legal. Thank you.
All right.
So,
Anyone on the board have anything to?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve Van Renslayers.
We have to open it to the floor,
I'm
too.
sorry.
Is there anyone in the room who has any comment or questions about this? Seeing none, is there anyone online? All right.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Brian, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
Josh, aye.
And John, aye. Public hearing is now closed, and I'm ready for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve Van Renslayers' application for a one-day liquor license on Saturday, September 14th, 2026, for a celebration of life located at 1019 Route 6, Wellfleet, Massachusetts, for a fee of $400.
Okay, that's February 14th. Not September.
I'm sorry, did I say September? Oh, I said Saturday. I was looking at the Saturday, my mind went right to September, pardon me, February 14th.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Brian, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
Josh, aye.
And John, aye. Moving on.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you,
Peter.
Peter. Let's see here. Okay, moving on to authorize the town administrator to sign a contract from Fuss and O'Neill for engineering services for Mayo Creek Salt Marsh Restoration in Wellfleet, and that's Jay. And just to let you know, I received a request from Helen Wilson to allow public comment on this, so I will after it's been presented.
She called me today. I didn't know it. I didn't get back to her.
All right. Good evening, members of the board. For the record, again, Jay Norton, DPW Director. I'm also here with Mr. Patrick Temple from the Cape Cod Conservation District, and I believe there's some members of our group online. I can't see right. Steve Block, yep, he's one of them. Mitchell Buck? Yes, yep. And so Mitch Buck is from Woods Hole Group, and Steve Block is from Fuss and O'Neill. So I'll just open it up quick, give a brief overview of what we're looking to achieve tonight, and Patrick's going to say a few words, and then we'll open it up to questions from the board and the public.
Did we want to pass it over to Steve first before opening it up?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we can just, I think they're just going to hang on for questions at this point. So, as most of you know, this project, or the Mayo Creek restoration, has been going on for years. Maybe not all of you know this, but back in 2011, I believe it started as kind of a preliminary review of the restoration of Mayo Creek, looking at the undersized culvert that goes under the causeway next to the Pearl Restaurant, and just looking at options on how that area can be restored. Excuse me. And then in 2016, there was an updated model assessment done by Woods Hole Group, and that was all under the reign of the Mayo Creek Restoration Committee, which I believe at this point is dissolved. So our former conservation agent, Hillary Lemos, was really the one spearheading this project, and that was one thing she said when she left Eastham, is that don't forget about this project. That this is like one of her babies.
Yeah.
So I have taken the lead to work with all these wonderful folks, and we're here today to look at the next step and kind of furthering this analysis along. We need to be careful because obviously there's a lot of sensitive areas that could be impacted by this project, low-lying roads, low-lying properties. So this next analysis will take the modeling to the next level. The first go-around was done by what's called a hypsometric, zero-dimensional kind of modeling. In this next phase, we'll bring that to a 2D model, correct? Yes. Which is EFDC modeling, which is an environmental...
Environmental fluid dynamic.
There you go. Okay. Thanks, Patrick. So that's kind of where we're at. Obviously, the culvert is a big issue for us. It's undersized. It's a 24-inch culvert right now with a duckbill on the end, so it doesn't allow tidal flow into Mayo Creek. So it prevents that and only allows drainage, from rainwater and groundwater. So that's why that estuary is getting choked up with phragmites and all of that. So a lot of environmental benefits with this project, a lot of work to be done still. This is still super preliminary. So we're just looking to further the design along, and we have funding from NRCS, 100% grant funded. So there's no town match required for this. So with that, I will hand it to Patrick.
Well, good evening, members of the board. I don't even know if I have that much to add. I feel like Jay just played all the hits. I will just add that I work for the Cape Cod Conservation District, which is assisting NRCS in the implementation of the Cape Cod Water Resource Restoration Project. The Herring River Restoration Project is a project underneath that umbrella. This is another. We are committed to seeing this through if feasible. Part of our rationale for doing this in a phased approach is to protect important resource areas, shellfish beds, private property and infrastructure that may be affected by any sort of increased tidal regime to the upstream area, and increased flushing out of the system downstream. We're committed to coming to you all, to presenting the public with any information that we gather out of this conceptual phased approach. And I would just reiterate that this is 100% grant funded through NRCS, will not require any town match at this point. And that's really all I have, and thank you very much for your time, and I would be pleased to answer any questions if the board deems it appropriate.
Speaking of the duckbill and the size of the culvert, will removing, are we anticipating having that duckbill removed?
Yes.
Yes.
So removing that and increasing the size of the culvert, will that have either a positive or negative effect on the silting of the area in back of the marina there where the slips are?
I mean, I don't know if I should be the one answering this, but just based on my experience, I think that would be a benefit.
I can't
because
imagine
it would
it
allow
being
more
worse.
flushing to go in between each of the basins instead of getting stuck there and letting the material deposit, to the bottom.
Yeah,
so the turbidity of it, I think, would be.
I would just say
more
theoretically,
beneficial.
the increased velocity coming into and out of that system should assist with any siltation of fine particles.
Because we have permitting in process now for dredging back, maintenance dredging back there, but
Right.
it'd be nice if we could foresee a day when it doesn't silt up quite as fast.
Right.
Maybe this will help.
And the other good thing, too, is I know Woods Hole Group and Fuss and O'Neill have been involved with the Natural Resource Advisory Board on another kind of similar analysis in that embayment. So they have that data already in-house and, just making sure there's no duplication of efforts.
Right. Okay. Anyone else on the board? Ryan?
Barbara goes first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ryan. Do you need to do any sort of permitting for this, like through conservation or?
Not at this
No?
stage of the game. That's not included yet, but at some point, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, if we advance it further, absolutely. The final deliverable for this contract is an alternatives analysis, conceptual design, and a revised model that should be able to give us a lot of answers to any sort of path forward.
Great, thank you.
Tom?
No.
Ryan?
I have two questions. One's pretty simple. On the first page of the memo, it talks about what would happen if the scope is expanded to include a culvert for the Chequesset Neck Road. Is that talking about the section that's behind the library? Because otherwise, I don't really see, Chequesset Neck Road.
Yes, I believe.
I would have to look at a map.
That's right.
I can't answer that off the top of my
Yeah.
head.
Okay. That was a simple one. And then the other question is, and I know it's not necessarily included in this modeling phase, but if this if this project moves forward, we should look at a DEP quality assurance program. It's what they require to if you're counting potential nitrogen benefits. And as I said, right now, from my understanding, is it's modeling, and we're not in that phase. But it will need a pre-restoration and post-restoration monitoring. And I just want to make sure that that's captured at the appropriate time.
Great. We'll make sure to
Absolutely
bring
noted.
that back to the team. Thanks, Ryan.
Tom, did you have some?
Just, I'm looking at in a perfect world where everything runs smoothly, when will this be done?
This particular contract or the whole shebang? Oh, boy.
I would just say that
10 years?
I don't know if it's
10 years?
quite that complicated of a system. I would put it probably, permitting will take a year, but at the end of the day, we don't know what we're going to learn from this study right now. We might learn something that, hey, shuts everything down. Like, we can't get tidal flow in there without having super adverse property impacts to some of the built infrastructure. So I think we're a little early in the game to think that far. But I would, if I had to eyeball it, if everything goes really smoothly, 4 years.
I'm just being very conservative, Tom. But yeah, I agree.
Well, for us, it could be 10. But,
But this is Wellfleet we're talking about.
Yeah, no, that's right. So this is from a grant, this was a large grant that the Cape Cod Conservation received for a lot of different work around the Cape, am I right?
This
Am I-
is,
if I'm remembering this
It's
right?
underneath the Cape Cod Water Resource Restoration Project, which is funded through the United States Department of Agriculture, Natural Resource Conservation Service, has a congressionally authorized plan that is able to administer funds to various
Right.
projects in all 15 Cape Towns, and this is one of them, and it's technically an agreement, not a grant, but
Right.
yes.
No, I'm just aware of it from other meetings, that this was, a great thing that came our way, and
One
I
more,
think it will be good.
John, if I could.
Yeah, sure.
And you probably can't answer this, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Do you know if the funding for continuation of the NRCS programs through USDA have been put into the Farm Bill? Because they're renegotiating the Farm Bill now.
We do expect to be funded
All right.
in the upcoming Farm Bill.
Okay. I'm concerned, but thank you.
We fingers crossed have been lucky.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Oh, they haven't.
Mr. Chair, if you'll
Yeah.
indulge me one last time. The other element of this is that the size of the current culvert really limits the ability of the system to drain. And it causes a lot of flooding during heavy rainfall events. So even if, for whatever reason, we can't necessarily restore tidal function, we do still, at the very least, need additional capacity for that system to drain. It's a huge issue with the Harborside Village, and the amount of it's fairly low lying, and it's very common for areas to be under a decent amount of water.
Good point, Ryan.
Anyone else on the board? In that case, I'll open it up. Does anyone in the room have any questions or comments on this?
Good evening, and thank you. Tim Sayre. Does any of this have anything to do with the raising of the 3 areas of salt marsh that they talked about at the last, and I just learned about it at our last SAB meeting? They had 2 people come in.
No, this is a completely separate project.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, Jeff Compricos. My question was more, why was the duckbill put over the culvert? Because for years it wasn't there. What was the rationale behind that? Thanks.
The only thing I can think of is to reduce it being clogged with sediment and allowing it to flow out at low tides. I don't really know exactly why.
I'll just add, this
Or
is
reducing velocity of it coming out and scouring.
Okay, so
That's
one of
another
your
reason.
gentlemen, I think, wants to answer that.
This is Mitch from What's Whole Group. So I've been involved in this project since 2008 or 9 or so. And the duckbill was in place back then, when we first did our initial study back then. So it's been in place for a while, unless there was a period of time where it became dislodged at some point in the recent past. Or maybe that was earlier, but just wanted to add in my observation.
And
Thanks,
my other
Mitch.
question was underneath Chequesset Neck Road, that culvert, who has responsibility for ensuring that that's free and clear? I think mosquito control's been there, but
Yeah.
is that a DPW?
Yeah, that's a
too?
town-owned culvert, yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Anyone else in the room? Yep. Okay, Helen? You might have to unmute.
She's unmuted.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
yes.
Now we can, yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Can? Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay, here's the thing, and I'm qualifying this because I think I remember that one of the reasons to have what's coming out of that marsh through the culvert into the harbor is that there are all kinds of septic systems, but they're the least of the problems, but at least three major businesses whose effluent goes into that marsh, particularly right near the culvert. And I feel very adamant about testing the sediment before any increase in tidal exchange occurs. I only read what was presented by Puss and O'Neill once, and I didn't read it carefully enough. And I don't remember saying anything about testing whatever's in that sediment, not the amount, but what's in it chemically, what's in it before it starts coming into the harbor, even just in water, not in sediment. Thank you.
Helen, thank you for the comment. I just wanted to say that that isn't in this current scope, but it was something that the team deliberated very heavily on including, and unfortunately the funding wasn't quite there to do that significant chemical analysis of the sediment. But it is I completely agree, utmost priority to consider moving forward, and should more funding become available, I don't want to speak for the whole project team, but that would be one of the tasks that I would put at the very, very top of the list.
Does any of you
Agreed.
guys have anything to say there?
Can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the focus of this phase of the work is to evaluate alternatives for replacing the commercial street crossing. And once we have an understanding of what those alternatives look like, then we'll understand of where potential testing and sediment testing, et cetera, would need to happen for eventually this project to move forward into the permitting phase. So testing would be required for permitting. But at this phase, it's more to understand like what the possibilities are for the hydraulics and hydrodynamic tidal restoration piece and what the alternative configurations are. And then once we know what those look like from a water flow perspective, then we look at what the other engineering aspects are that are here, and also what other impacts there are from the project.
Okay. I would, and correct me if I'm wrong, but, and we also have a couple of people here from the Shellfish Advisory Board in case they want to chime in on this, but the water that comes from Mayo Creek through that duckbill can exit through the duckbill into the harbor. And it would seem to me that if there were anything harmful coming from septic effluent, that the routine testing that's done on behalf of the Shellfish Department of the waters, when they get ready to open different areas, it seems to me that would turn up any contaminants. Correct me if I'm wrong, if somebody from the board wants to weigh in on that. Nancy's not here, so I can't ask her, but.
No, I think that's, yeah.
Chris Merle. So the DMF that works as far as water quality testing, I wouldn't rely on that, though. I definitely think that additional testing would be needed to see what comes out. But that would just tell you if the whole area needed to be shut down, if there was a fecal coliform or whatever. And so I would definitely rather see more testing into the sediment when it's opened up. But I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
So if it turned up any contamination, we wouldn't be able to necessarily pinpoint the source as being the duckbill or something else.
No.
So, I see. Okay. That answers my question.
Just one more thing. It kind of gets into what do you do first, and I would just say we plan to do both. We plan to look at, is it hydraulically and tidal regime feasible, and is it water quality feasible? And we chose to look at the tidal regime, the hydrology first, but we are absolutely plan to look at all of it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions either? We have some hands raised. Kathleen Bacon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To Mr. Norton, thank you for picking the ball up on this. It's been a long time seeing it come to this point. And John Reel, who was part of the NRAB, this was really his baby, the Mayo Creek restoration. Doing this work now will give us some sort of ballpark on how deep a dive you can do on this restoration. But, you know, going back into history, this was open tidal flow. You know, this was dammed up by the town to create more development. Everything that the trailer park is on and our recreation department is on is basically, you know, it was wetland and it's on fill. But it's all part of, you know, the Mayo Creek restoration is all part of creating a healthy harbor system. It's all connected. And we don't get a chance very often to dial back environmental damage. And I'm grateful to see that happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Laura Hewitt. You'll have to unmute.
I just clicked unmute. Did it work?
Yep,
There you go.
Yep.
Okay. Hi, Laura Hewitt from the NRAB. I just wanted to add that, yes, we did have some studies done post John Reel with Woods Hole Group, and I will flip those over to Jay tomorrow. But it did look at tidal flow levels and how much it might move the silt and that sort of thing. So it may be helpful. And then in terms of Helen's question, the silt or the organic matter that's out in the marina area, I believe, is all brown custard, which has been defined as organic material and not chemically charged. So that's all I had. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Helen, you still have your hand up?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The DMF, I'm almost, say, 99% sure, does not test for things like the breakdowns or, you know, as it originally goes into the silt up in Mayo Creek, of things, for example, that are used for washing boats and sanitizing liquids that restaurants have to use, you know, Department of Health. They test for, the DMF tests for other things. And organic matter is all good, but when more effluent comes out of Mayo Creek, once the culvert is repaired, and I'm all for it, I second what, you know, Kathleen Bacon said, those elements that aren't tested for ordinarily, which will be washing out more regularly in greater amounts, because the businesses should, you know, prosper and continue there, they will affect things. And that's what I'm talking about. Yes, organic matter, but organic matter with other things in it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this point,
Mr. Chip?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I just want to point out that in the future, most of this area will be sewered. So, you know, it's conceivable that, you know, we don't know what will come first, just because of the time horizons, but most of this area will be sewered, so.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I
yes.
move to authorize the town administrator. Did you have a question?
I did.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's a brass tacks question to the town administrator. In our packets, we were provided Fuss & O'Neill's contract, but usually the policy is that we sign the town's format. Is that accurate for this contract as well?
So,
Do you want me, go ahead.
so there's some discretion that goes into which contract we sign. Normally, we convert the proposal to the town's template unless it's a project that is, what's the total price tag?
130,000.
And we're not,
Okay.
it's a grant.
It's a grant, yeah.
Yeah, unless it was sometimes if it's grant funded, we utilize their proposal because there's just not a lot to go wrong in a project of this type that warrants it being converted to the town, and the fact that it's grant funded is just a little bit more seamless, that's all. That's the only reason.
Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay. In that case, I'm ready for a motion
With
unless,
that, Mr. Chair, I move to authorize the town administrator to sign the contract with Fuss & O'Neill for professional engineering services for the Mayo Creek Salt Marsh Restoration located in Wellfleet, Massachusetts.
Second.
roll call vote,
Brian, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
Josh, aye.
and John, aye. It passes 5-0.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Nice to meet you, Patrick.
Thank you for taking the time to present. Moving on, board and committee updates. Shellfish Advisory Board, for the Select Board to approve a letter that they have written and want to send to Maurice's Planning Committee regarding housing. Chris, I believe you wanted to read that into the record?
Yes, Chris Merle, Chairman of the Shellfish Advisory Board. I just wanted to read it into the record so people know what's been said. A little longer than I had hoped, but subject, Maurice's Campground Concerns. Dear Select Board and Maurice's Planning Committee members, anyone who has a commercial shellfishing permit. Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so anyone who's had a commercial shellfishing permit or is licensed to operate a shellfish farm is required by our town shellfishing regulations to be domiciled in Wellfleet. Shellfishing jobs make up 10% of Wellfleet residents and 25% of our working age population. Affordable housing and secure year-round rentals are extremely difficult to come by here in Wellfleet. It seems to this board that the overwhelming opinion of many shellfishermen is that there needs to be opportunities for people in town to find housing that allows them independence and dignity, and that their desire would be to have a single-family home with a yard. People want their own space, privacy, and freedom to work and live. Shellfishermen need places to store gear, conduct land-based farming operations, and overwinter product, and many work in trades and need space to run those businesses as well. While a community gear yard is promising and many are interested, not everyone feels comfortable keeping their business operations in public view or wants to keep their gear away from home. They want to be able to pull their truck up to their home and have their kids, dogs, and cats run outside and get involved. This board feels that the current planning is not taking these opinions into consideration and is moving forward without town committee, town department, and local workforce input on its 250-unit proposal, which is seemingly aimed at accommodating a large influx of people that we do not have the off-season employment nor infrastructure to support. In addition, the impact of 250 dwellings with multiple residents in each could affect the town's power to adequately control our shellfishery. As part of home rule and mass general law, the town must offer shellfish permits to the public and must undertake shellfish propagation, and once domicile is established after 1 year of residency, the residents of Maurice's will be allowed to purchase a commercial shellfishing permit. This could put increased pressure on our shellfish populations and perhaps require changes in management. The town might need to greatly increase its shellfish department funding and staffing to accommodate this. Instead, the Maurice's planning should be focused on accommodating current residents that are struggling to find permanent housing in Wellfleet. Wellfleet's workforce that is housing starved does not want a large apartment building that mimics standard suburbia, but rather a rural neighborhood with short buildings and open spaces that maintain the spirit of Wellfleet. Wellfleet prides itself on being wild and different, and escape from suburbia for the tens of thousands of people that visit our little slice of heaven each year. Instead of a large apartment buildings attempting to house potentially over 625 people, we support setting up several starter-sized single-family homes. similar to the many Wellfleet Habitat for Humanity houses. For those who are not ready to take on full home ownership yet, perhaps a small section for clustered rentals that could be in duplexes or triplexes or tiny homes with a common area, rather than a large building. The town has spent years trying to develop pathways for home ownership, and secure year-round rentals for locals and housing opportunities have dwindled, and the development of Maurice's could be a chance for the town to directly address the most urgent needs within our community before sticking our irons in a much bigger fire. We think that it is worth considering the opinions of 25% of our workforce in town on the housing structure that they need, and if they already have secure housing, why they support the same for other people. Thank you for your attention to this critical matter. Sincerely, the Shellfish Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I move that we approve the letter written by the Shellfish Advisory Committee to be sent to the Maurice's Planning Committee as presented at tonight's meeting.
We have a second?
I'll second, and I just have a question, like a procedural type question, but I assume we can discuss that as part of the discussion. So can someone remind me, do we have a policy that requires select board approval of letters to be sent? I know that's true, that of letters to be sent to sort of outside agencies, but does it also require that we approve all correspondence that they send to other boards?
I was reading through the policy on that, and it's a little ambiguous, and in my opinion, I was going to raise this. I was actually going to raise it during future concerns, because I wasn't sure if I should discuss it as part of this agenda item, but I really feel that it shouldn't be necessary for us to do that.
Yeah, I share that view. If as needed, just to get this particular one, I would certainly move forward with a vote, but maybe we could revisit that so that committees don't need our permission to send letters to other town bodies, maybe to another agency. That's a separate issue.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to bring that up during future concerns.
Okay, just through the chair, does town administrator or administration have any comments or thoughts?
I think my personal opinion is the board should, even to letters to the state, if you hire people that you, or appoint people to boards, they should be able to write letters without coming before the board unless there's a policy implication. But intra-departmental, I think the board should be able to communicate with each other without having to come before the select board.
Yep, no, I agree. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing the discussion.
I will just add to the discussion that I do think that on particular matters, you want to make sure that the board is aware of the communication. And I think that's what was being done here tonight. So since they asked our approval, we're not giving an opinion, we're just passing it on. And that's why I went with the motion.
Got it.
We do this a lot with, on different levels on another board.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
We're always happy to have something read into the record.
Yeah.
Right. And we can be copied on any correspondence. So,
It's
okay.
making sure we all hear it and read it, I think, so.
Okay, so I seconded the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, roll call vote. Or did you have something you wanted to? Roll call vote.
Barbara, aye.
Sorry, I'm reading the policy.
Oh.
Yeah, I think we should revisit the policy in general.
Okay.
It's a policy on advisory board correspondence. The last time it was amended was 2004, and it was originally from 1988. The last paragraph's kind of funky. It's any correspondence or contact with town employees or outside agencies which represent a position or expression of opinion on behalf of the board, committee, or commission, or the town of Wellfleet shall be submitted to the Board of Selectmen for its approval prior to any such contact. I would point out that that's a lot of correspondence if that's strictly enforced. because it includes town employees, outside agencies, other boards or committees.
I think this is an important discussion, but we're in the middle of a vote.
Yeah, sorry.
So I voted aye.
And
Aye.
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 And John, aye.
Okay.
So passes
Thank you.
5-0, and we'll revisit this for sure. Thank you again, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Business A, Town Administration, to discuss and change the spring annual town meeting date.
Yeah, apparently town council, well, we thought she was free originally on the 4th, she has 4 meetings on the 4th, and asked if we could consider moving it. I talked to the town clerk, and we also talked to council about having to change the election schedule and things that the town clerk would have to do to move it back a week to the 11th from the 4th, and the town clerk was fine, council is fine. And I recommend that we move it to the 4th. The town accountant and the, don't recommend that we move it into April, that we should move it the other way, and I concur.
I agree.
All right, if there's any discussion on the board, take a motion.
Just quickly, so the annual town election is what date again?
12th.
The 12th? And we're looking at this being as the 11th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the election will still be after the town meeting.
Yeah.
Unless we go 2 nights.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
see that happen.
hopefully we don't, but,
Well, that's why we split them up.
yeah.
Right now, there's only one article.
Well, there's 2 placeholders.
All right. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
And then, my sentiments on dates for town meetings is that I'm always very hesitant to set a date to close a warrant or things of that nature in advance, because oftentimes we find that we're unable to meet that deadline for some reason. And I'm just very careful about trying not to create confusion on when different things might necessarily happen. But yeah, to me it makes sense, but it's hopefully we don't have a huge warrant, because otherwise, if it goes to 2 nights, that could be an issue with the election. So. And just because I did not particularly enjoy when we had borrowing articles that were being voted on in advance of town meeting at the polls. I think it's always helpful for townspeople to hear from other townspeople as well as staff on what exactly those borrowing authorizations are for and cover. And that's kind of my one hesitation, because I've been through that, I think, twice, and I did not particularly enjoy it, but we didn't have a choice at that time.
Well, I remind you, that's why we pulled the dredging mitigation payment from the warrant a few years back, because we had to postpone the town meeting until after town election.
Okay.
So anyway, back to the matter at hand. Do we have any further discussion, or can we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to hold the spring annual town meeting date. I move to hold the spring annual town meeting date from Monday, May 4th, 2026 to Monday, May 11th, 2026, held at the elementary school gymnasium at 6 p.m.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Barbara, aye.
Ryan, aye.
Sheila, aye.
Josh, aye.
And John, aye.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
I did.
Thank you, Josh.
It passes 5-0. All right. Looks like Mr. Norton is on the table again.
With
Business B, with the police chief, to present to the board the study that was conducted at the Briar Lane intersection. Hi, Chief.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. For the record, Kevin LaRocco, Chief of Police.
Jay Norton, DPW Director.
So we were asked a while back regarding the Main Street, Briar Lane intersection, requesting a stop sign. You want to speak of the study?
Sure. So basically what we did is, between the two departments, we looked at historical records of any accidents, being in that location, whether it be a vehicular or any pedestrian accidents, and there wasn't much data in-house that we had. So we asked the Cape Cod Commission to see if they had any data for that particular intersection. They didn't have any crash data, but they did offer to do a traffic count, if you will. So basically it was just, it was done in July, late July, at the peak times of, between 4 and 6 o'clock. And it was basically just counting what, types of trucks and cars and pedestrians. And, it basically corroborated what we all know, is that it's a busy intersection. We understand that. And it's asymmetrical. It's kind of an awkward intersection, and which is why obviously we were studying it. But given the lack of any accidents or anything significant that's occurred there, we feel we should just keep the intersection as is. Because there's different, you have Ryder Court, you have Briar Lane, Holbrook, Main Street, and West Main Street. So it's just kind of obviously all of us that live here year-round, we know how to navigate through there. It's really just the tourists.
We all had our first time.
Yeah. So, just given all of that data, we feel we should just keep it as is, but obviously we'll continue to monitor the location, and if conditions change, we will for sure be coming back in front of you with any different recommendations. So that's kind of sums it up, right?
Unless you guys had any questions, went through in-house with the police department records, and there's not much to indicate many accidents there in the last 10 years or so. Biggest thing we get in the summertime, we get complaints, but not actual data for accidents.
Yeah, and if I may, I believe that if there were ongoing accidents at that area, it would also be noted on the state level, and they would flag it like something's happening there, and come to us as much as we would come to them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the other thing I'll add too is through the Cape Cod Commission's efforts, they're also doing the Vision Zero study, which is, reducing crash, fatalities and all of that across Cape Cod. And that was not a flagged intersection for that particular situation, so.
I'll add that the only thing I've personally ever noticed there during the season particularly is people traveling west on Main Street who stop even where there's no stop sign.
Right.
Could be worse.
Right, it could be worse. Could fly right through.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Is there any way that we could get a pedestrian beacon of some sort? I mean, they have the ones that are on the side of the road and not overhanging on the crosswalk at Holbrook, just because the way that that's kind of configured, there's sick day, and then there's the
clothing store.
Yeah, the clothing store. It's really hard to see people walking until pretty late there, just because, I mean, you have the retaining wall for sick day and things like that, and then obviously the intersection, or the clothing store, and just even if it was, I mean, they have them in the city where it just has basically a flashing light when somebody's in the crosswalk or about to cross it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a push button. That would, in the summer, I kind of stress there just because it's kind of like, you're dealing with all these intersections, and then you're also dealing with the prospect of, people and especially kids crossing there. So.
Tim? Yeah, why not? Why not?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tim Sayre. I respectfully disagree with you on not putting a stop sign there. I live on Briar Lane. I go down Briar Lane all the time. In the summer, that's a zoo down there. There's multiple times that people almost get hit. People run the stop signs down there. The pedestrians, there's no stop sign where the pedestrian crosswalk is. When you put up the pedestrian sign, then half the people think it's a stop sign, so the people at the other stop sign go when people don't have to stop on Main Street, because it's not really a stop sign. It just says stop for pedestrians. Okay? It's hard to see when you're coming out of Holbrook. It's hard to see down Main Street whether anybody's coming or not. I start to pull out and make sure nobody's coming, and then I start to go, and multiple times people have been screaming down Main Street or have run the stop sign coming the other way from the library. So I personally believe that if you put stop signs there, yeah, you're going to have to stop, but I think it would help increase the safety at that intersection. I don't think we should be waiting to see how many deaths or injuries or accidents we have in a spot. It's not conducive for all of our summer people that are here during the summer. Okay? Yeah, I know how to handle that intersection. Probably everybody that's sitting up here knows how to handle that. But during the summer, that's a different story, because you get people stopping in the middle of the street, you get people that don't know which way they're going, and I just think that adding a stop sign, well, actually two stop signs, because you have the other small street coming out down there, would ensure a higher rate of safety in that intersection. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just a quick question, I guess, to the chief. Is there a downside identified to adding stop signs?
I would say no. It really just, we were asked to bring the data to the table, and that's what we're doing. Putting a stop sign, you can put one there. It may cause more accidents at first. There's a very good possibility of that.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The only comment I would add to that is the fact that this isn't a typical four-way intersection. You really have 5 points. So if you put another stop sign, and then you're going to have to put another one at Ryder Court, then it really creates some confusion. I would think more so than exists now, but that's my opinion.
Well, I personally, I'm fine either way. I would tend to defer to the people who we ask to gather the data.
Josh is going to come after me. I just wanted to know, so say you as chief said, yeah, I think that we do need a stop sign there. What is the process of getting a stop sign there? Can you just put one there yourself?
We would amend
I'm sorry.
I am asking the chief.
The last stop sign we put up was at the end of...
It's like Pilgrim Spring.
Pilgrim Spring.
And Chiquesset Neck Road. Yeah.
I don't recall the process.
No.
It's
just
the
through
board.
this.
I'm just...
It was through the Board of Selectmen's traffic rules and regulations, which requires a public hearing.
Right.
So the last stop sign we put up, I believe, was at the end of Coles Neck by the transfer station, and that's what we did. We did a process, we did a study, brought it to the Board of Selectmen, open as a
public hearing,
and then made a decision.
Decided to go through. Okay. And the funding for that? It all comes through.
I don't have any.
Yeah, it's not, okay, but it's not like the state
usually my
comes in
budget.
and says,
usually
sure, we'll
DPW
give you
budget.
that stop sign, right? Okay.
No.
Through the chair.
Just wondering.
Ryan was, I'm sorry.
No,
Josh.
please,
No,
go
no,
first.
go ahead.
I got a couple comments and questions.
Those beacons on the side of the road, like they put up on Route 6, the flashing beacons, they're not cheap. Is this Chapter 90able, or is there a traffic safety grant that we might be able to get? Because from a budgetary perspective, they got to be, what, 50, 60 grand?
Really? Did that much?
There's all different models that
Yeah.
you can choose
Well-
from, but yeah, they can go up that high for sure.
I know signaling can run you, 300,000-400,000, so.
Oh, yeah. I don't think it would be Chapter 90 eligible.
Okay.
Because that's mainly just for road improvements and maintenance. But there's a lot of MassDOT grants for signs.
And we're
signage
looking
that-
at a couple of things, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Josh?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, Josh.
Oh, no, it's quite all right. I think this was the first agenda item I ever requested to be added, and I thought it would take months, and you added it within days. And so I think we paused because we found out that the county was doing a traffic study. So I'm glad that we're revisiting this. Just a few observations of the study. I thought it was interesting. There was a comment that many years ago we had considered this as a town, and one of the main concerns was that their traffic would back up on Main Street. They would clog up downtown. But the traffic flow data indicates that that won't be an issue. So I just want to clarify that we now have data to suggest that there's not going to be cars going down Main Street. You know, I mean, my personal opinion is irrelevant in this conversation. I defer to you two on whether we should be doing this or not. Speaking from personal experience, going down Main Street, going west, taking a left onto Holbrook, and having someone coming east on West Main, not knowing that I don't have to stop. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had my directional on, trying to take a left onto Holbrook, and then having to hit my brakes. And so I appreciate that no one has had an accident, but I don't think we should suggest that people haven't had issues at this intersection. You know, I think it was a really wise decision by this town when they added the stop sign at Jaquested Neck and Kendrick. That used to be the yield sign, because that was confusing as all hell, and we fixed that with stop signs. There have been no accidents to my knowledge at that intersection since we added another stop sign there. So like I said, I mean, I would certainly be in favor of adding a stop sign, but it's ultimately, you know, I want to take the lead from our public safety and transportation teams on whether we should do it or not. Those are my observations.
If the board has the interest of putting a stop sign there, then we can move forward and do a public hearing and put it out there.
Oh, we can talk about that next.
Like I said, I'm fine either way. If somebody wants to have an agenda item on this, I'm more than happy to include it, so.
Okay,
In that case, we'll conclude this without a motion then.
right, no motion.
All right, well, thanks for
So
your
thank
time.
you.
All right.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Appreciate it.
Before they go, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, like, I would like to know what the public thinks, but at the same time, I don't want to go to a public hearing unnecessarily. I was wondering if there would be, I don't know, we don't really have a good way to communicate. But if there was some way to kind of gauge what the public might necessarily want.
A survey.
You can have a question put up on the website. Have people.
Yeah, that's
right.
I mean, maybe a flyer at the transfer station. I don't know, let people weigh in, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
They
All
need
right.
to go.
Yep.
Okay,
All right, and we need to move on.
me too. Good night.
Okay, on to business C. The board will be presented with the beach bathroom study.
The beach oh, here they are.
Right.
Here's our beach bathroom. And there's no action.
So while they're getting set up, I can give a quick intro. Hopefully you've had a chance to read my memo. This goes back to a capital budget or a line item under the DPW to do an assessment of the, I think it was 5 locations, trying to remember the exact
Oh, yes, I'm
number.
very familiar with this. Yep.
5 beach bathroom. Each one is different and presents a unique set of problems, but we will be faced with replacing those bathrooms. Those bathrooms are ancient, and they present a myriad of problems. They're not ADA compliant in large part. Some of them are in a coastal zone that is threatened by beach erosion. Others have zoning issues. The wastewater functionality is borderline non-existent. And on top of all that, the usage has increased exponentially, meaning the amount of beachgoers using the bathrooms, and it's just obviously a lethal combination of all those things coming together that, you know, in the service business, in Wellfleet is in that business in a lot of ways because people come here to visit and take advantage of the beautiful beaches. We need to have upgraded, good facilities for people to use to help make that experience more enjoyable. And I think these locations are in need of an upgrade in that area. So to get back to the line item, so in 2004, I believe, the budget item was approved as part of the capital budget for $200,000. The first step was to do a high-level assessment of the 5 locations. We issued an RFP. Keenan and Kenny of Falmouth, and these are the 2 premier architects that worked on the project from Keenan and Kenny. They've done a lot of work on Cape Cod. We've met with them a number of times. We had kind of a focus group that worked in conjunction with them. That included a lot of the key staff from the town. We met via Zoom, but I don't know, 5, 6, 7 times. And tonight, they're here to present the findings of that analysis, we'll say. So I don't want to take too much more of your time, but with that, John, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, John. I'm John Keenan, my partner Antonia Kenny. We're partners in Keenan and Kenny in Falmouth, Mass. Nice to be back in Wellfleet. We designed this building 25 years ago. And we also did the fire station about 15 years ago. And just to add a little levity to this, this building costs $220 a square foot to build.
Oh, my God.
You can't do anything now for that. But you look at the
People have
prices
cow
for
about
this, amazing. Fire station was $380 a square foot.
Wow.
Can't do that. We take this little project very seriously. As we said in our introduction in the submittal, Wellfleet has a great history of modern buildings, going back to the 30s and the 40s and maybe the 20s. So we are trying to keep in mind of trying to do a nice building, not just a box. We studied the existing conditions, we studied the site, we studied the utilities, we ran through replacing the buildings piece by piece or reconstructing them. There are many issues with the site by the type of septic systems we have to use, how fast the beach cliff may be eroding. We've been told that in some places they say it's 5 feet a year. So I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not a geologist, but there's some concern that we have for the projects. We have not gotten into the real nuts and bolts of these projects, but we have done a pretty good scope on what we think we need to do to develop them further. We have 2 ideas. We have one that's a traditional, say, stick-built, built-in-the-field type building. That would be the standard Chapter 149 type of construction, file sub-bids, GC bids. You get bids on masonry, roofing, painting, all that. Or we could go with a prefab unit we found. We did a lot of research on several manufacturers, and it's a very popular item all the way to Australia. They're building they're sending those products here. This company's in Quebec, but they have the contractor who builds them is in Massachusetts. So it's not coming from out of country completely. They both have their pros and cons. We could list them for you. They're both very expensive. As we did the estimates for the stick-built and the prefab. What we don't have numbers on is, for instance, the septic systems. We're going to have to do new septic systems for each location and have a denitrification, which, as you know, is expensive, but it's probably what you're going to wind up doing. The well systems, these buildings are larger than what's there, meaning they're going to use more water. We don't know and have not studied the yield on the well systems. The urban blue buildings have a pressurized upgrade system built in, so that won't affect them. They say, but we don't know yet. Utilities such as electric and wiring and alarm systems, things like that, have not really been studied. One concern we have is the first one there at LeCount Hollow. The building is in the National Seashore property, and if that's a complication, we don't know. I would not want to have to go to United States government for a permit at this point. I don't think you would either. We did show a schematic concept of putting a new building in, on town of Wellfleet land. The only land in that whole area on that location. Some of the pros and cons, well, we don't know, but the prefab building may be less expensive, but we don't know the site work. The prefab building can be installed more quickly than putting a project out to bid and putting up studs and putting up roof and putting up painting and, you know, all that stuff. So there's some time saved that way. The prefab, we're not trying to sell this either. We're just giving you the pluses and minuses, pros and cons. With the erosion issue, a normal building, as you would know, would you dig a 4-foot foundation, pour concrete, pour slab, backfill, compaction, and then build a building on top of that. To move that would be more difficult than moving a building like the prefab, like the Urban Blue, because it's on a 12-inch slab. You could pick it up and move it. Just simply disconnect the electric, the water, and the sewer. Almost like a mobile home, a trailer park kind of situation. Not that that's what it is, but there's a lot of pros and cons. We have not discussed with Urban Blue how much of a change we can make to their standard design, although we'd like to. We have discussed different materials with them. Their buildings are aluminum. I would like to see an aluminum building on the coast of any sort, because I don't know how long it's going to last. There are other products we've explored that are treated wood, very well treated wood. They're guaranteed for life, but they are wood, impregnated. The roofing, we wouldn't go with shingle roofing. We'd probably go with membrane roofing or metal roofing. The different systems that the Urban Blue product gives you. I don't know if you got a chance to look through it, but it's pretty unique. It's all single user. It's self-cleaning, the toilet and the floor. It all comes back to DPW headquarters or whomever is going to watch over these as programming and their use. It records how many gallons of water you use, how many people use it on a certain day. It's pretty neat, and I think we're in the future rather quickly out here, and I think this being a world site that people come to, I think to put our best foot forward and the product that's unique and sustainable would be a good thing to do. Plus, you'd be the first one that I know of on the East Coast to have this type of a facility, and I think you'd set the coast on fire.
Tom?
I had a couple of quick questions. One, the self-cleaning units are wonderful. They really are. But when you have a very active on a couple of these beaches where you're queuing up the line, I'm not sure that's going to be, they take a couple of minutes to clean off.
Yes.
And I'm not sure where we have long queues to get to the restroom. That we got to talk about that.
Yeah, some of the things we did in our study, we've developed two types of buildings. One has 8 units.
Okay.
And one has 4.
All right.
They're not like what's out there now. The 8 units are at
That'd probably be.
Newcomb Hollow and Whitecrest.
Okay.
The 4 units are at LeCount Hollow and Gulf Pond. So you have the capacity, I think it's a 7-8 minute, 8 units, 8 bathrooms, 8 minutes apiece, that kind of, you can develop a pretty good flow. We also added to these, as part of the committee, outdoor showers. We added drinking fountains and bottle fillers, which are all combined and connected to these units, and they're all vandal-proof, that kind of thing. But I think the increase in the number of actual toilets at each site, you go from 2 to 8, in Newcomb Hollow. I mean, sure, there's a lot of people, but you can't have 100 toilets, you know?
So my other question was in the pond areas, as opposed to the beach areas, did you look at things like a Portland loo as opposed to these?
No.
Okay.
No.
Another brand, different.
Yeah,
different-
because we had to compare
Yeah.
two products and make all the utilities sort of the same.
Yeah.
That's why we came up with,
Very-
there's still septic, there's still well, there's still electric. I mean, you could be solar, but we discussed that, and there isn't that much of a use for a solar-powered building. It just wouldn't work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
With the ADA, most of the buildings as they exist now are deficient for areas, for door entrance and exits, for the path to the building. We've covered that, and we obviously will do that correctly for a new building. But one of the concerns is getting in and out of the building, not just inside it, and how much length you have for the door swinging, the hardware, things like that. That could be an issue.
Okay.
And the parking lots and the curbs and things like that. ADA covers everything.
Right, yeah.
If you want to look through some of the pictures, have you all seen them?
Yeah, I have so just so the board knows, there are two packets of information. There's the urban blue packet, which is what was in the actual packet, and there was the conceptual design narrative and feasibility study, which I emailed to you. So you all have that in your email, and the feasibility study is up here. The feasibility study is also on the website, so if there's anyone at home that wants to open this, this is currently up on the website and can be viewed via a few clicks. So, John, why don't we quickly run through some of the pictures?
John, if I could just
Sure.
interrupt, through the chair, Ms. Carboni, I think has a question.
Just a quick
sorry.
question.
Sure.
Thank you, through the chair. Just going back to the ADA issues.
Sorry?
Going back to the ADA
Yeah.
that you were speaking about a minute ago, were you saying that there will be issues with ADA compliance with this model, or?
No.
No,
No,
okay.
the
I
new,
must
the
have
new,
mis-
the new models are perfect.
Okay,
They
all right.
meet international law.
Okay, I must have
I'm saying
misunderstood.
what's out there, the little concrete block
Oh,
buildings.
yeah, okay. I
don't-
misunderstood.
no.
Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead, okay.
In our study, we looked at each building, we measured them, photographed them. There's small engineering on each one to see how you could rebuild it or reconstruct it, but it's almost impossible to make them meet code. So I think the first motion would be to tear them down and build new ones. They're kind of neat looking, but I don't think they're the modern Wellfleet look they might want to do. Go ahead, John, just keep going.
Well, do you want to see the urban blue, John? Because these,
So what we're looking at is the
Existing.
aluminum, the existing.
That's the existing,
All right.
that looks like it's the existing at LeCount Hollow or Whitecrest, but they're all pretty much the
yeah,
same.
this is Newcomb, this is Newcomb, right? This is Gull Pond.
Yep.
This is, and this is some of the work that
That's-
John did as it relates to.
That's the location at LeCount Hollow of the building currently in the seashore.
Right, so one of the things the architect firm did is looked at, if this building were to be moved because of coastal erosion problems, where could it go? And there aren't a lot of places it can go, except for,
Right
this
there.
is a right-of-way here. So you've got, here's the parking lot here, here's the end, here's the existing bathroom at LeCount. I'm sorry, this icon is getting in the
Yeah,
way.
we do have a sketch of that further on in the book.
But the only place it could go would be right here.
Yep.
That is one of the only few places it can go.
Yep.
Moving on is the,
That's Whitecrest.
yep,
The building will be twice the size, the new building would be twice the size of the existing, so you would lose parking, and we haven't had an analysis yet of how many spaces you need or will lose, but there is a request for more space anyway, for the public. That's Newcomb Hollow.
That's Newcomb, yep.
Yep, same thing there, the building would be twice as large, and you would lose parking and drive access, things like that. Gull Pond is pretty much the way it is. A lot of the structures currently are located within well recharge areas, which is against the law. Some of them have septic systems too close to the wells. Some of them have septic systems too close to the building. So there's all these things that have to be ironed out before it can be complete. Just keep.
Here are the new buildings, John.
These are sketches of our designs. Again, traditionally built, they're all galvanized steel studs, cement walls. Everything would be galvanized or concrete. One of the issues we had, one of the requests we had was that the two larger units in Newcomb Hollow and Whitecrest is to provide a lifeguard room, and that would be the room on the front of the building, and with storage for golf cart equipment between the two restroom areas. A place for them to rest, hang out, get out of the weather, things like that.
So when we looked at a stick-built building, one of the requests Suzanne had was, Thomas, was could we possibly have a place where the lifeguards could have a place to change and keep some of their, personal items during the day? And so, although the urban blue facility really didn't lend itself to that, if we went with a stick-built facility, you could do that. And how that would work is you've got the bathrooms on the left and right side, and the middle section would be the section where maybe we could have a small locker section, or a small area for them to changing rooms. And then what you see here is also the outdoor showers on the exterior of the building below the windows.
Yep.
But anyway, sorry, go ahead, John.
Yeah, you can see the number of fixtures. There's 4 on each side. These are male and female. The urban blue products are unisex, which may help you with the movement. Another design.
Go to the next one, John.
Yep.
Okay.
That's a smaller one. That might be one at Gull Pond or Newcomb Hollow. These are the urban blue designs. It is a heated slab on grade. The site prep is simply compacting some gravel after you test what's below that, and they come in. It's a finished product. It's put down on a crane, with a crane, and connected. They're all handicapped accessible. They do have the utility center in the middle that contains all the plumbing and piping and controls and things like that. All the doors are electronically accessible, even the utility area. If you haven't seen it, if you use the toilet, the water comes out of the back of the toilet, cleans the seat, and then air comes out and dries the seat. And after every 10 to 12 users, the water comes out of the floor and washes the floor with soap and water. So, I mean, I don't know how much you spend on maintenance on those facilities now, but this would probably cut it out completely. There's the location of the proposed new 4-unit building at Newcomb Hollow on the straight. You can see the circle, the arc there is the well district, so we're just out of that. I don't know where the septic is on that one yet. This is Whitecrest. You can see there's a septic system going out the back. On the upper right, there's a septic tank, and then the well is down on the lower left. So this is completely illegal, I guess. That's Whitecrest, same thing. And that's Gull Pond. Again, we're bringing the building out of the well recharge district. And I think the septic's all right on that one, but again, I don't know if it's sized correctly. Some sketches that we did just to give you an idea of what you could do. We really feel that you want to make a nice building, but we're architects. What do we know? Yeah. the natural light coming in, so there's no windows for people to break in through. You might not need much light in the building, electric light during the day, things like that. So that's what some of these are. The handicap drinking fountains on the outside, each has a bottle filler. We had a request for a sink to clean fish. We had a request for a bowl on the ground to water to have your dog drink out of. The shopping list goes on and on. But they're just very simple buildings, well built. Different shapes, different sizes. That would be our approach. And hopefully we could get something. Well, you can see the urban blue pictures too now, John.
Okay. Give me 1 second.
I have a question while we're pulling.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
In either scenario, is there an option to not have a self-cleaning feature? Or is it required?
No, not with the, no.
ones that we
It's a built unit.
Okay.
Just the Urban Blue have,
The urban blue has the self-cleaning.
that's just one of their, they're called that because they set them up in cities, so they need a fast turnover, so.
There's one that you might put at LeCount Hollow. It's 4 bathrooms. It shows the outside showers. We might want to, there it is there again. They're neat, they're clean, they're pretty durable, I think. I don't know about the aluminum, like I said before. But in our discussions with Urban Blue, they wanted to bring their whole team here from Canada. And I said, wait a second, let the town chew on this a little bit more. There's a bigger one that's probably White Crest or Lucum Hollow.
I know it's, I know we're kind of zipping through these, and I understand time, but a lot of these designs were born out of conversations with the DPW. The DPW can explain the challenges that go into cleaning these bathrooms on a daily and weekly basis in the summer. Just listening to it from Jay, it's difficult. It's a challenge. Let's just leave it at that. And some new modern facilities will go a long way to help ease the burden on him and his staff. So that's also part of this.
Yeah, I think too, the, either one, the stick-built or the Urban Blue, we would have systems in there for locking them, controlling access. So people can't have more than one person in there. So there's an amount of privacy and protection and, health, sustainably healthy, more healthy.
And these are just the drawings, John. We'll leave it there.
When we talk about showers, we're not talking about hot water.
They can be hot water.
Yeah, but we don't have to have them as hot water.
Those units can be provided. The prefab unit can have hot water, but that's kind of a luxury, huh?
No, it is, well, I just think that it's something that people would then overuse.
Yeah,
And
sure.
we have to be thinking about our water, right, Jay?
Yep.
So,
I guess the other thing is what do these cost?
yeah, that's,
We did some cost estimating
that's-
for
that's
both
what we
types.
wanna
Yeah. I mean, I just told you this building was $200 a square foot
Yeah, well, we know it's
25 years ago. That little thing is $1,200 a square foot,
Mm.
you know.
So we want small ones.
I think that's just the way the world is now. Everything's expensive. The stick-built is not much less money than the prefab built, so they're pretty much the same.
Question to the chair?
Sir?
I will. The difference, though, and I'm not, is there's a lot more that can go wrong for repairs in capital expense and pumps and machines and motors in the prefabs than a standalone traditional public restroom.
Yeah, possibly, but the product they're selling and the way they're backing it up is they're responsible for the whole thing for 10 years. In other words, if we had a building built and the plumbing goes wrong, we got to call the plumber. he's got to come out. You call the electrician, he comes out. You call the digital computer guy. Whereas he, get the GC over here. These guys,
Yeah.
one thing.
In a stick-built, I wouldn't think of digitalized computer stuff going on. I would just consider it as a traditional public restroom
Yep.
without mechanics.
Yep. But still, I mean, the thing is that the product, the prefab is one fixed unit developed by
understand.
one company, and they're responsible for the entire thing.
10 years goes by pretty fast, though, that's all.
Sorry?
10 years goes by pretty
Oh,
fast.
yeah, I know. Maybe they have extended warranties, but that's a whole other discussion, I think, with them
Yeah.
as far as what the product
Okay, all right,
actually
thank you.
does. One proposal we had was possibly build one, a prototype, see how it works, see how the public likes it, see how it endures, see how, if it really does what they say it does. Maybe one of the small ones at Gull Pond, or probably the best part would be one at LeCount, because that's got the worst exposure.
Yes, it does.
That's got the exposure, the sea,
Yeah.
the salt,
And the septic
and
is-
you could possibly have one of those in there by August, according to these guys. But anyway, that's
All right, and what was the cost of these things you were going to?
I think about 458,000 for one double unit. That's the building. Again, we got site work, septic, water, electric,
All in.
yeah. So-
Excuse me, and is that with the add-ons, say, like the dog bowl and the water fountain?
Yeah,
and
in
Those
their-
things can be moved around, right? Or,
Yeah, in their package, I don't know if you have.
I'm surprised we didn't ask for a bidet, you know?
That's what they'd show up with, one of these, you know.
It's a
They would show up
prefab,
one of
yeah.
those.
Yeah, it just pops down.
But for instance, they say that,
She just got it.
That just connect?
you know, if you want the bottle filling station, that's $7,500 per building. The two-level water fountain is $13,000 per building. If you want to extend the roof, it's $39,000. Hot water is $12,000.
Right.
Want to air condition it, it's $15,000. Different things like that. But it looks like the base building is about $450,000.
The base building, okay.
I have a question. This would be really for Jay, since ultimately these become the responsibility of the DPW. What are your thoughts on this whole self-cleaning thing? Because it does seem to add a considerable amount to the cost, but then there's a cost associated with having your people maintain it. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jay Norton, DPW Director. Knew this question was coming, so I've been prepared. I see Tom. I already know his views. You know, obviously, I'm a proponent for technology. You know, I know, we're, getting into the future, and, I like to keep an open mind for all these alternatives. And before I answer the question, I do want to say that it was lovely to work with these guys.
Yeah.
They were excellent. The town really got a bang for their buck with all these alternatives, and were very timely, and I just appreciated working with you guys. I think looking at the pilot idea is something that we should really consider. I do want to get some more information about maintenance and other locations that these have been established and for how long, especially on the waterfront, salt air, all of those conditions. So I think we should still do some more homework on that. We're still really at the infant stages of this, but I am a little concerned with the maintenance that could be involved, even though I know there's a 10-year warranty. I just don't think we're ready to really make that call yet until we, dig our teeth into it a little more.
Right.
Obviously, it would be great for us to have that, the self-cleaning options. I do have concerns with, with paper towels left in the ground, like how does that, if the water's flushing into the drains, does that then clog and then it's, creating more of a mess? Because, in a perfect world, that's great, but these bathrooms, you guys have seen them, and they can get pretty ugly. So relying on a machine to clean those might not be the best. But for areas like Gull Pond, where it doesn't get much use, versus like Newcomb or Whitecrest, at least we can see how it functions. That might be a good alternative. But that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. And I just had one more observation. And this is just, it's not, you can weigh it if you want, it's really just general. I noticed that there's options like the water fountains and the bottle fillers. And the showers. Now somehow, for the last, my family started coming to the Cape 74 years ago, and somehow we got by without having showers at the beach. The water fountains, which were depicted in the pictures, are the typical refrigerated water fountains. As a refrigeration tech for the last 55 years, I can tell you that is a maintenance headache waiting to happen, having those in a salt air location like that, with sand blowing around. I think people could do without chilled water. The water bottle filler is, I think, a great idea, but keep it simple.
Right.
Yeah, and then there's but the severe cold, they get shut down, there's the cold. There's a lot of.
Yeah, let's go through the chair.
Excuse me. Oh, excuse me.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry that I might have interrupted you.
All right. Take a pause. Let's return to going through the chair.
I didn't realize that
this won't happen.
You had said something.
Okay.
I asked to be recognized by the chair.
Go right ahead.
Are we
Sheila.
done with the back and forth?
Don't make more of it. Really. Have you been recognized? You're recognized.
Okay.
What do you have to say?
Brian, you're recognized.
I thought, are we in recess or not?
No.
So, Chair, maybe let me ask a question while this simmers down.
All right.
Wait, I have a question.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Okay. So my question, it has to do with the feature you pointed out that's an advantage of the prefab, which is they can be moved easily. Is there any way with a stick-built structure to make it easy or easier to move? Because that seems like a really important thing.
It's like a mobile home.
Yeah, I mean, you could. It'd probably be more expensive than building a traditional stick-built building
And I think
with a foundation.
I think we were considering also using, a cementitious product.
You get closer to the microphone.
Yeah, sorry. We're not sure if it's, wood frame would be lighter to pick up and move, like, you would a mobile home or something like that, but we had considered, due to the exposure that a lot of these.
Yeah, one of the,
It's not working, right?
Just sliding towards you.
Okay.
one of the things that we have not decided or completed with Urban Blue is the buildings have to be tied down. It's 120 mile an hour wind. They have these, they don't. They just drop them wherever they are, or in some park someplace. So we would have to engineer some way of anchoring them to the ground, even if they are movable. Whereas a stick-built with a foundation is by code anchored with plates and nuts and bolts and all that. So there are some other issues.
Yeah.
What we would suggest at this point is possibly take the next step and take a prototype and go through the motions of deciding what kind of septic, what kind of well, what kind of building, what are the finishes, put together a real, this is a concept, put together a real preliminary or schematic design, take it to design development so you can really put some good numbers on it, really chew on the materials and the things like that, and then come back in 6 months or whatever and say this is a more realistic approach, whether it's the stick-built or the prefab.
Right.
And like I said, they will come down here and they want to bring everybody from Canada. the closest one to here, that they built one in New Jersey, down in Wildwood, New Jersey, and there's one in Albany, New York, a series of them. And they're building more and more. So they have offered to take us all to the factory or take us wherever you want to go to see these things. But other than that, I think we have to come up with a way to get to a more realistic idea. And I think we've got everything we need to start that.
Okay, Ryan and then Tom.
So first, I really like the designs of the stick-built ones that you did. They would look really good on the oceanside beaches. I'm not the biggest fan of Cape Cod Modern in general, mostly because it doesn't scale very well, but if it's in a smaller setting, it actually looks fairly, like I can get behind that, especially with the allowance of natural sunlight into the structures. I think that those would be awesome. In addition to just having stalls, there needs to be a space for changing. A lot of times people are using the stalls to change, and that's not the best situation to change in. At the same time, you're taking up basically a stall space when you could be served by something a little bit more basic and more suitable for, changing. And just in terms of I was going to ask about Barbara's question. Some of these, obviously, nothing's going to change at Gull Pond Road or Gull Pond in our lifetimes. But, I've watched LeCount Hollow, and it just, there's been a couple winters where we've basically lost, almost 10 feet. It's very inconsistent on how fast it erodes. It's all dependent on, what winter storm hits us when, from what direction. But, it can go pretty quick. And that bathroom really needs to be replaced as soon as possible because it's very close to the edge of the dune. I look at what the Cape Cod National Seashore has been doing at a couple of their locations where they've faced similar challenges. They've done basically movable type, but they're fully built out bathrooms. That's at Race Point and Nauset Light in East, or Nauset Light or Coast Guard in Eastham. Basically, they get tired of having to tear down bathrooms and build new ones, and they wanted ones that they could move if there was a lot of erosion in a given location. I think in some locations that approach would make sense. If a bathroom is sited far enough back from the edge of the dune, it should conceivably last for the life of the bathroom facility, but it's always a concern, especially on the ocean side. Newcomb Hollow is, fairly well back. Same with Whitecrest right now. But, we never, the Center for Coastal Studies has been documenting that the erosion process has been speeding up. So, that's obviously a concern. In terms of the amenities, I actually, I'm pro shower. And there's a number of reasons why, but basically it's something that the Natural Resource Advisory Board has highlighted as an area of concern, is people going from the oceanside beaches to the ponds without being able to rinse off, bringing both salt or sunscreen products into the ponds. I know when I was a kid, that was actually my mom's strategy. Was a bunch of kids with salt on them, and you'd go to the pond and rinse off, and then you'd be good. But that's not necessarily the best for the ponds, and allowing people the ability to rinse off, I think would be fabulous.
I think you could put timers on this. If people just can't stand there and take a 20-minute shower. They got a few minutes and that's it, goodbye, next. you know.
And no hot water.
A rinse
Right.
off, yeah.
We had bathhouses, but no hot water.
So anyway,
So-
we're
I believe Tom had,
pleased to have been able to work on this. This is, to me, to us, it's a jewel of a little
It's
project.
very interesting.
And it'd be nice to work with you to solve it and
Okay.
see where we can go.
do we need any further action?
So I think what we should do is take a look at the two packets of materials, and then what we'll do is, in a few weeks, put this on as an agenda with some optional next steps that we will brainstorm in conjunction with the DPW, and we'll have a discussion on, because there is still funding available to utilize for any next steps. That's the good thing. So that's what I would propose.
We don't have any
We
funding.
won't make a rash
Well,
decision. God
for this
forbid.
project. But anyway, that's what I would
We've got
propose.
about 140.
Yeah, there was 200,000 allocated. We've spent about 60, so we have 140 left for this project.
Yeah, what I gave John yesterday was what the next step is, select one design, look at the cost for AD services, construction costs, what you'd have to do to build it, what the schedule might be, what all the effort would take for permitting, all the different agencies, and then look at operating costs, sustainability, erosion control, things like that. And then if you have a prototype, you can get the community input, you can see its history, its use, its how it's, whether it's suitable or not, whether it withstands the coastal environment, and then by analyzing the whole scope of the project, we could possibly bring the price down more realistic and know more about what it's going to cost.
One last question,
Yep.
Mr. Chair. So that jogs to mind, basically schedule. Is there conceivably, let's say there was money to whichever option was chosen tomorrow to get these things, into construction. What is the difference in time frame between the prefab and the stick-built in terms of having something actually be constructed and ready to use? I'm mostly just, and I've been for a few years, been very concerned about the Lookout Hollow bathrooms, and basically, something needs to happen sooner than later. And I'm just wondering if there's a difference in timeframes between the two options for that location at least.
For instance, to bid a stick-built building, the bid time, when you advertise for bids to collect bids, is 6 to 8 weeks. The prefab building could be here in 6 to 8 weeks. It's a huge difference that way. Not guaranteed, but that's what they,
But we would still have to bid. They're not sole source.
well, they have provided us with a procurement. They are a member of the Procurement Cooperative of America.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're a member of that. I'd have to.
But
I can explain that. So real quickly, under Mass General Law, you're allowed to buy in 3 different ways: state bid, put it out to bid, or you can buy from a consortium. A consortium is a entity that the town has accepted their bidding practices, and you can buy from them as long as you're a member. The member costs are usually very small. We would have to make sure that the consortium they belong to has been accepted by the state. If they have, we could buy from them.
yeah, there is documentation in their
Yeah.
in their presentation. But you still would have to bid. This would sort of be installed by a GC, let's say, but you still have to bid the site work, the utilities, the electric, the sewer. You'd have to bid certain parts of it, but you wouldn't be bidding every little piece. But they said they've done that before with their procurement.
Question.
It remains to be seen.
Sheila?
My final question would be, So you said, like, say something goes wrong with the electronics, or there's something there, and we wouldn't have to call the electrician. We wouldn't have to, they take care of that all. So do they have people here, is what my question is. Do they have people that they contract with that knows this product?
Yes,
Or, because you say one is in New Jersey, one's in, I mean, I don't see any.
Well, the prime contractor in this location in New England is located in Massachusetts. I
Okay.
think they're in Auburn or Northborough. And they would be the people responsible for everything, for that entire building. From my
So
understanding.
there has to be like a guarantee that they would be here within so much of a time if we had a.
Yeah, we had those
That would have to
discussions
be-
in our meetings.
Right, okay, so you asked all these things.
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
just-
it sounded like they're pretty aware of that
I'm just-
problem.
Just thought I'd throw that out there, thank you.
Jay?
That brings up, you just triggered something that I just thought of. In the event these buildings do, if something happens, they go down, are they still functional?
It might
Meaning,
not be self-cleaning.
is the only thing that would go down would be the self-cleaning part, and everything else would still function?
Well, the way they have it set up is the doors are all electric strikes and locks and things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that could be disabled. That's
Okay.
just a lock and key. The doors are panic hardware on the inside, so you're not locked in. I guess you could use the toilet. There's no touching. You don't touch the water, you don't touch the flush, you don't touch this. So that,
Yeah.
you probably couldn't use the toilet if you couldn't, signal it or whatever.
Right.
Uh,
I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
it's 4th of July weekend and they go down.
And it always does happen.
All
on
I
the
Yeah.
4th of
just
July
picture, I
weekend.
just picture it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just another thing to consider.
I
Thank you.
think, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I think one of these 8-unit, it would be great at the marina. That's a place that makes a lot of sense, I'm not sure about the beaches yet. I haven't, I got to get my arms wrapped around it, but we'll talk some more.
Brian?
So, where you're saying that the general contractor in the area is located in Massachusetts, I'm guessing that must mean that there must be a number installed in other communities in Massachusetts. Is there any way to check on what their experience with these are?
Yes, we would have to get them down here. Yeah. We'd have to get the people,
See if we can do a field trip.
Yeah, a field trip sounds good.
All right.
Yeah, we'll find the closest one.
I think more or less in conclusion, I'm all for, taking the next step. I would include in that step determining what we actually want to see in terms of how much gadgetry or how, in my opinion, how little gadgetry we can get away with. But the more we have in terms of, either showers or other, self-cleaning equipment, we have to consider water use. Where's the water going to come from? And where's it going to go? We have to factor all that into it. So an 8-unit bathroom of this type with a self-cleaning feature and maybe some cold water showers outside and a hopefully, preferably not refrigerated bottle filler. We have something we can use as a template for what kind of disposal we're going to need, what kind of well supply we're going to need.
they do have a really good statistical report on gallons per use and how it stacks up against a regular use. Someone running a faucet or whatever.
Right.
And it just tells you that it uses as little water as possible.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
there anything-
we'll see.
Anything further?
Through the chair, I think what we should probably do, because we're going to have an agenda item on this, and we're going to have to discuss it. It probably should be a workshop, but workshops are hard to come by given the board's schedule right now. But we probably should do that. And while it may be some back to the future, Jay, it may make some sense to ask Suzanne Thomas to come in and talk, get the people involved, Jay and, marina manager, all those folks in, so we could we can chat about it and have a intra-departmental discussion on it with the select board.
Okay. Now it's 8 o'clock, and we still have,
Yes.
Yeah, we got another
We have
big one
another
we got to get
presentation.
If he could give us a good lead time on that, we'll get Urban Blue down here to explain everything.
All right, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
And also, through the chair, thanks to John for coordinating all of this. I know it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
For 1 minute.
Okay. We might as well get situated for the next item. We'll wait for Sheila to come back before we start, but the next item is a big one. It's the presentation of the report done on town parking. And you're welcome to come up to the table.
I've been to most of
I'll
these
give a
houses.
pre, and you can
so-
jump in.
I live in one of them.
You're more consistent.
It's
My
okay.
favorite one is
Is
that,
that Wellfleet?
the Hatch Cottage.
So, Mr. Chair, do you want me to
Yes.
give another quick intro?
Yes. certainly.
Okay. So this is Andy Hill. Andy works for Desmond Parking. Desmond is a premier parking company that's done a lot of work. They did some work in P-Town, a lot of work on Nantucket. I initially reached out to Andy via a conference call back when we talked about this time last year, about possible next steps. I think at the time we were talking about revenue and the fact that costs were going up. Towns have limited ways of raising revenue. This was a possibility. It's been looked at in the past, and maybe it's worth a second look. So we had, I reached out to Desmond. I talked to Andy. He said, yes, we can do that. We initiated a contract for a high-level analysis of 5 different locations. And with that, again, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Here he is to report on some of those findings.
Okay, I just want to wait for Sheila to get back. She should be back momentarily. Before she does, I have a question for the town administrator. It was brought to my attention today in a conversation that not only did we in the past have a parking task force looking at all this that Sheila was on, but apparently, I didn't know this, I guess it would have had to have been around 2012 when Harry Turkanian was the TA.
There was a parking thing done then, yeah?
Yeah, do we have any archival materials on that?
Yeah, we have those.
We should bring that into future discussions on it.
I'll have to find that, but I think there's.
Okay, all right, go
Oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry, you didn't have to, wait.
Oh.
Okay, well, here we are.
For the record, my name is Andy Hill. I'm Director of Consulting Services for Desmond Incorporated. Desmond has been a architectural engineering and consulting firm specializing in the design, development, financing, operation, and management of parking, transportation, and mobility systems. With all of that said, after doing this for 26 years, I just answered a parking guy. As a point of information here, what we're going to talk about tonight is a study that we were asked to do to look at the feasibility of going from free to paid parking. And that's a fairly common vernacular people understand. But just as a point of clarification, even when parking is free, it's not free. It costs in the neighborhood of $5,000 a space just to build a surface parking lot. If you're looking at a structure, it can go from $25,000 up to over $100,000 per space, whether you're going up or below grade. But even the public parking that you folks have has a cost associated with it. We did a study over the last 5 years of 50 different communities that had some or all of their on and off street parking free of charge. And we worked with Director of Public Works in each one of those communities, the head of finance, to figure out a prorated system for converting the money that was spent in different departments down to the square foot associated with all that free parking. And as a general range, communities spend between $200 and $2,000 a space each year for maintenance, marking, striping, snow removal, lighting, et cetera. So that money typically comes out of the general fund, and it goes through Department of Public Works. But somebody's still paying for that at the end of the day, whether it's through property taxes or something else. So when we talk about making this change, what we're really talking about doing is potentially looking at another way to recoup the cost of paying for that, and in this case, recoup that cost by charging a nominal fee for the use of that space to the direct end users instead of paying for it out of the general overhead. Point of clarification to this committee and the general public at large, my charge was to look at the question and answer the question, could we go to paid parking? And if we could, how would we go about doing it? The question of should, I believe, lies with this body and the general public, and I'm not prepared to answer that question this evening. I've been doing this for 26 years, and I know how that inflames spirits and interests. So I'm going to try and veer away with that and just sort of stick to what my charge was. I'm not going to read all these slides to you. You folks seem very articulate and intelligent. You don't need me to do that. The area of study that we were asked to look at was the idea of possibly converting 25 spaces along Main Street that are currently 2-hour parking, the timed parking that is in Preservation Hall and the timed parking that is in Town Meeting Hall into paid parking. We also were asked to take a look at the town pier and make some discrimination out there between the vehicles that are currently using that would be under some sort of permit or local resident use versus the more transient use. We expanded our scope slightly to also take a look at parking activity along the beach lot and at the playground as well, not necessarily because those sites were being considered, but simply as a point of reference as we went forward, taking a look at utilization. Those sites could be germane to this question later on, depending on how this body decides to go. And I'll circle back to that eventually. We came down and we established baseline conditions by really looking at conditions on a Friday and Saturday in what we call the shoulder season, which was in June. And then we came back in July during high or summer season, the true peak season, and we did the same set of observations. The idea was really to establish what typical utilization looked like, as well as what the distribution of parkers were according to time of day, and how often these spaces turned over. And all of these things eventually would go in to inform the development of the model. And the idea was that we wanted to go off of empirical real-world data so that the numbers that we were generating were achievable and reasonable here as you're considering this question. There were not a lot of giant surprises from what we've seen. As John noted, we worked on the Cape. We just finished up a large engagement for Portsmouth. I worked on in Virginia Beach. I helped Bar Harbor make the move over to fee-for-use parking. So after you've worked in enough seaside seasonal communities, you kind of expect to see certain things, and we did. We saw a very healthy rate of utilization during the shoulder season, slightly higher and certainly more intense rate of utilization during the peak season. Interestingly, on the shoulder seasons, your peak hours actually came later in the day. In peak season, they actually came around midday. So that's an interesting dynamic there. In terms of length of stay and turnover, you actually have pretty good compliance for the most part. Wherever you've got 2-hour parking sign, there's fairly good compliance with that. Only about 1 in 4 parkers is staying longer than the 2-hour limit based on our limited sampling. So Once we had established sort of that baseline of conditions, the next thing we wanted to sort of drill down on is you know, what is the reasonable market for charging for parking out on the Cape? And we looked at all of the major towns in the Cape because we figured that's your competitive set. If anybody's measuring you against anything, that's what they're going to be looking at. Interestingly, when you do this work, it's a lot like doing real estate appraisal. You can make arguments that communities are comparable or incomparable from multiple different perspectives. What we try and do is look at a fixed set of metrics that usually are indicative of how strong the market's going to be. So one of the things we'll look at is population, because that drives demand for parking. But that's not the whole picture. You also have to look at density, because the more people you cram into each square foot, the more there's going to be a thirst for parking in the area. That's why Provincetown is one of the, it's not the biggest community we surveyed, but they're running around 2,000 people per square mile, which is why they went into the paid parking business quite some time ago. In taking a look at sensitivity to potentially charging for parking, you definitely want to look at median household income. Last thing you want to do is start benchmarking against a community that's way above where you're at or way below where you're at. This was all in about the same range. You had a pretty tight cluster as far as age range goes. So we're not looking at communities of really young people or communities of people who, you know, very old people who might have a lot of ambulatory challenges. They're kind of in your same cohort as far as that goes. Other stuff we looked at, you know, the percentage of folks that typically drive, because that creates a demand for parking. The percentage of folks who work from home, because interestingly, since COVID, that creates a tremendous demand for parking. And then the typical number of houses that didn't have a vehicle in them. That actually deletes demand for parking. But they're all good references. In terms of the communities we looked at, these seem like a very appropriate comparative set when you took in all the variations and all those factors. When you start looking at the actual pricing here, there are really only a couple communities on the Cape right now that are kind of in parking as a year-round business, if you will, or parking as a business, for lack of a better term. Barnstable has been charging for parking for quite some time and has a fairly sophisticated parking department, and you actually generate a enterprise revenue stream associated with that. Provincetown is the other one that's been doing this for a while. Interestingly, Chatham was recently debating this question. Do we need to go over in the village to paid parking or not? I believe the focus of their debate was more along the lines of compelling turnover and compliance with posted lengths of stay. Harwich has also wrestled with this. Falmouth actually started to take the first steps. They are charging hourly for parking now. They haven't quite developed a formalized system yet, but they're kind of wading into those waters. Like I said, Bar Harbor went over there 10 years ago. Portsmouth has been doing this for 20 years. Nantucket is still wrestling with this question. So you're not alone in asking this question and wondering if this is something you should look at here. The survey of transient and permit fees really gave us an idea for what the range was and also helped us when we were developing a conceptual rate structure to make sure that we weren't proposing something that was out of line or inappropriate with comparable communities, and also to try and weight the structure that we were recommending for you to be reflective of what is potentially acceptable, especially when you're doing this for the first time. The last thing you want to do is come out of the gate and immediately start charging or asking for fees that are way above what is reasonable or acceptable in terms of threshold goes. Same thing with fines. We were really looking at the fine structures because, unfortunately, if you introduce fee-for-use parking, you're probably going to have to enforce in order to actually collect on that. In addition, interestingly, the minute you start charging a fee for parking, you will find people who have never violated posted policy before who will start doing it. as a quiet protest or just in the interest of trying to avoid the fees or any number of things. So you need to make sure that you've got that system in place in order to make sure that people are actually doing what they're supposed to. There are several different types of fees. I'm not going to go into a lot of depth on this here, but very often when you're talking about fines where you want to be able to curb people away from doing things like violating time limits or not paying, those are usually structured as recuperative fines or penalties. You actually are just trying to get back to some degree some of the money that you would have gotten if they had just followed the rules, or they are corrective. Don't do this again. Here, I'm going to assess you a nominal fine that's going to hurt just a little in hopes that you remember that and don't do this again. For more major violations like fire lane operations, things of that nature where there's a life safety issue, very often you're looking at that point at punitive fines because you don't want just something that's going to be corrective. You want something that actually demonstrates you put the general public at risk, and as a result, we take this very seriously. Interestingly, does anybody know why handicap fines, using a handicap space without a placard is so high?
Yeah, why?
Oh,
Do we know the price?
Oh, I know the price. I didn't know if anybody knew this. I didn't know this when I came into the industry, and it was several years before I learned this. Those fines are set so high because enforcement of the ADA Act typically requires on somebody bringing legislation, which gets bringing litigation, which gets very expensive when the town has to defend itself. So the town and the state have put such high rates on those fines because they've learned the hard way. It's very hard when that litigation gets brought. It's much easier to just set such a high threshold that most folks wouldn't even look at doing that. And so they set very high thresholds so that they don't end up in litigation later on, because interestingly, that's the only enforcement mechanism that's built into the ADA laws as they currently stand right now. So what I tried to do was put together, oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to be telling.
I'm following.
Okay, good. All right. I just realized I'm launching forward on this and none of you can see my screen. What we tried to do is put together a set of proposed fees and an escalation structure that hopefully the threshold was low enough that they would be generally accepted going forward, and there wouldn't be a lot of pushback. A lot of folks who said, I will just go up to Truro or down to Chatham rather than do my business here. But also that had fixed escalation points within them so that because there is operating expenses associated with this enterprise, we wanted to be able to show enough revenue growth over time to keep ahead of inflation. In addition, the other thing that you have to keep in mind with parking fees is from time to time they just need to be adjusted to reflect changes in market. Wonderful example of this, I work in downtown Boston, and the city of Boston was very reluctant to raise their parking fines for overtime violations at their meters. But all of the parking garages and lots in Boston were owned by private entities who had no compunction about raising their rates whatsoever. At one time, the median cost for a day's parking in Boston was $35. The city only fined you $25 for not paying for the meter. So it became a better deal to stay at the meter and take the ticket than actually go into the garage. They had to go and make that adjustment so that the mechanism actually worked. So what we're really looking at is initial transit fees that only increase every 5 years and basically by a quarter. The permit fees will actually escalate by about 10% every fourth year to keep ahead of inflation, assuming that it's growing by 3% per year. And then the fines will actually escalate on the third year, each year again by about 10%. Because of all the behaviors we want to discourage, the ones that cause fines are the ones that we're going to be safest at escalating. We looked at operating expenses. We looked or envisioned an operation that wasn't going to go 24/7. Anybody who drove through the center and down to the pier like I did this evening to take a look at the sea will tell you you do not have a parking issue at this point, and charging for parking would be nuts. So Bar Harbor and Provincetown are only seasonal operations. Our assumption was that this would be a seasonal operation as well. So conceptually, we'd open up on May 1st, we'd close out on October 31st. There was a certain amount of staffing that was going to have to be associated with this, so we made some assumptions in regards to what that staffing load was going to look like, and then we had benchmarked what we thought that was going to cost based on U.S. labor statistics for the Barnstable MSA for comparable positions to what we're kind of outlining here. So hopefully the math was pretty clear. One of the things I always seek to do is to provide a line that anybody can follow. I'm actually getting good at math after 57 years, but I still make mistakes, so it's always great for the client to be able to see how I did my numbers and let me know if I screwed it up. What we really envisioned was an operation that would require nominal administration, typically at the start of the season, at the end of the season. At the start of the season to really start up operations and also get people registered who needed permits, that type of thing. At the end of the season to sort of close down operations. More consistently, you would need somebody who was a fee collector that would go out periodically. We're assuming that the meters would still accept cash and coins as well as electronic payment here. So somebody's got to go out and periodically collect that, come in, account for that. You also have to account for all the electronic transactions as well and be able to record that. So that person's going to handle that. You will need a parking enforcement officer full-time. We're figuring 10 hours a day or 1,830 days across the season. And then that same PEO is probably going to have to do a little bit of overtime when you have ticket appeals as well. So we wanted to factor in those costs as well. With fine collections, processing, adjudication, pretty much not only every town on the Cape, but most of the towns from Plymouth on down, and in a large variety of, majority of towns in the state of Massachusetts, either subcontract that out to Kelly and Ryan, who you may know better because they do a lot of payment processing for property taxes as well. There are a number of communities that actually subcontract that out through the Plymouth County courts. So there are a couple of different models as far as they go. Both of them cost about the same and have about the same process rate. So we just did calculations assuming process rate over the total number of tickets that were issued each year. In looking at what you would have to buy in terms of equipment to get set up, I didn't want, a lot of communities can approach this in different ways. Some communities just pay for it as one capital purchase right up front and then periodically replace it as time goes on. Some will make the purchase but then amortize the cost over the lifespan, which is what I ended up doing on the balance sheet that I put together. Some folks, actually, there are companies now that will actually allow you to lease that equipment. It's called hardware as a service here, and it's becoming an increasingly popular model as well. So a lot of different ways to skin the cat as far as that goes. In terms of the type of equipment I anticipated you'd probably need, for the spaces along Main Street, the simplest thing to do is go with a single head meter. That's pretty intuitive. People understand how that works. So we would propose doing a single head meter at each one of those spaces. These would be smart meters, so they would have the ability to take coin, to take cash, also to take credit card, take payment via Google Pay, Apple Pay, that type of thing. The more options you give folks, the easier it is for them to comply. So our objective is to make that as easy as possible. In the lots, in the lots, you could meter each one of the individual spaces. It would kind of screw up the circulation a lot. It's probably easier to go with a multi-space meter or several multi-space meters around the perimeter of the lot. These operate in one of three different formats. You can paint numbers on each one of the spaces, and because it's only a seasonal operation, there's no reason not to do that. So as long as I know that I parked in space 100, I get out, I walk over to the meter, I punch in 100, I pay for however long I want to stay, and I go about my business and I'm done. Pay and display is still used in a lot of places. Interestingly, the city of Boston still uses it on a lot of curbside operations. This requires you to go over to the machine, get a receipt, and put it on your window or put it on your dash. Again, because it's a seasonal operation, it's not a deal breaker for you guys. When we worked with Dover, New Hampshire, they got a heck of a surprise because they decided to do just one multi-space meter for each block face. They put it up in the spring. They had no problem through the summer. They got in the winter. They started doing snow removal operations, and they had all kinds of complaints. And they could not figure out what was going on until somebody went out and watched. And a person would park in the middle of the block, and during clement weather, they could just walk right over the meter, get their thing, walk right back. Once the snow piled up, they had to walk in the traffic all the way to the corners that had been cleared away to allow for access to the handicap ramps. Walk all the way in the middle of the block, get their display, walk all the way back through traffic. So it's just something to think about. A lot of companies may try and sell you on pay-by-plate. Pay-by-plate is great if you can remember your plate number. My experience is, especially in a community like this where you probably have a lot of folks who are coming in on tourist turns and may have rental cars, they don't know their plate. And as a result, they may get up there and suddenly forget they don't remember their plate and have to go back to the car and come back again. All of that tends to color the experience. So pay-by-plate is a little bit more convenient than the other two as far as maintenance goes, but it's also the one that's prone to the most mistakes and the most complaints, just to carry that forward. The other thing I kind of anticipated is the use of handheld units for ticketing. I don't know if you already have those right now or not. I kind of priced out sort of the top-of-the-line model that has cameras that do license plate and video image capture here. So they can literally scan a plate, and if somebody's already paid for the parking, it's in the system, it comes back, they don't write a ticket. On the other hand, if they've got 20 tickets, the system also comes back and says, this guy's got 20 tickets, you might want to call the tow truck. It also captures all of that as video evidence, which is very helpful as well. So I also carried some basic costs just for maintenance and miscellaneous costs based on experience with other communities and what they typically spend. At the end of the day, your first year in operation, you're probably looking at about $152,000 a year in total costs following all the assumptions that I'd laid out. Again, where we're looking at revenue side, we're basing on what we actually observed in the field and the assumed adoption of the rate structure that we had talked about. One of the things that this doesn't include is any type of existing permit sales you have for parking right now. I actually read back through all of the archives for the 2019 parking committee and some of the stuff from the 2012 to try and glean that as much as I could. But there were a lot of cases where we just assumed, especially down at the pier, with the longer term cars, those have got to be under a permit at this point already, so we're not going to assume that those would be necessarily subject to paying for parking later on if you instituted it. Nor does any of our modeling assume that at some point that's going to get combined in as well. That's something, if you go down this road, you may want to do, put it all in one enterprise fund. But we're looking at this as sort of a standalone enterprise. So in year one, you could capture up to about 168,000 transit parkers over the course of a 6-month pilot here. And they would generate something in the neighborhood of about $205,000 in gross income. When we talked about parking fines and violations, we went off of historicals to try and understand how many parking fines you might get based on the number of spaces, and of the different types of parking fines you might get. I know there's a question about, do we actually need to write all these tickets? Our assumption was that for every 22 parkers, you're probably going to have to issue one ticket, and of all the tickets you issue, which would be in something in the neighborhood of 7,700 a year, something closer to 7,000 of them would actually end up being collectible. Some of them would get appealed, some of them get issued, and they're from states where you have no reciprocity, and folks just go home and say, sorry, folks, I'm not going to pay that. So we certainly didn't assume absolute collection on any of that. That was worth about $97,000 a year in terms of collections. So you could be looking at gross revenues of around $302,000 a year. So at the end of the first year, to answer the question, could you charge for parking? And if so, would it be profitable? Give or take, your net would be something in the order of around $150,000, depending on how you escalated rates and how growth went going on into the future. That number could go up. But the simple answer to the question is, yes, you could potentially do this under this set of assumptions and turn this into some sort of money-making enterprise. So some stuff that I wanted to add on to that, because that's all in the report. This is all kind of best practice stuff. And again, from 26 years of doing this with other communities, if you decide to go down this road, first best advice I can give you is have a long and extended conversation with the public first in the community. Get them to buy in on what you're doing and why you're doing it. Do it as a pilot initially and be very clear what areas are going to be affected, how long they're going to be affected for, and what you're trying to achieve. If you do those simple things, you can get a lot of community buy-in and really run a good trial to see if this makes sense or not. Communities charge for parking or start charging for parking for lots of different reasons. Some of them are revenue generation. Some of them start charging for parking because time enforcement is just not getting it anymore. They're having problems with folks turning over spaces in compliance. You need to really think about what you're trying to achieve and then have a very honest conversation with the constituency about why you're doing this and how it's going to benefit them. And then make sure that you report it back to them at the end of the day. Did we achieve it? Did we meet the goals that we kind of set out? In between that and the pilot, there are a number of other action steps that you can take. Some of them you can take concurrently while you're having those conversations with the general public to get the equipment in place, to get the policies in place, get the signs and everything else up well before you start opening up the pilot. Great story from another community I worked with. They bought all the signs to make folks aware that they were going to do a pilot for paid parking. They put them up and down the avenue here, and they put them right near all of these beautiful deciduous trees that they had planted in April. And when they kicked off the pilot in June, they immediately had all these complaints from folks who said, I didn't know you started charging for parking. How was I supposed to know that? And you went out and you looked, and about half the signs were obscured behind the crowns of all of these wonderful deciduous trees at that point. But getting those signs out early, it goes a long way toward getting folks used to the idea before you launch the pilot. I included a slide that talked about some of the key actions to go along with implementing a successful pilot. Again, I can't reiterate this enough. Do your homework and all your public process beforehand, and then take measurements during the course of the pilot. Set some very clear, achievable metrics and goals, and then report that back to the general public when you're done. And if you tie this all to an objective that you're trying to achieve, you will be surprised. Nobody likes paying for parking. But the folks will be a lot more receptive if they have an understanding for what you're trying to achieve, rather than just saying, they're gouging us again. With doing this here in Wellfleet, looking at this, there were some concerns that I had, things that you probably should look into more before you decide to go. Some of them are minor concerns, some of them are more significant. I'm always concerned about user migration when you talk about suddenly going from free to fee parking, because folks will literally flee the area and try and find other places to park. You actually have a lot going for you in the town center, because all of the streets coming in and out of that area are way too narrow. Most of them are signed as no parking. So it's not like they can go into the neighborhoods. Where they can go, potentially, is into some of the other business or institutions' parking lots. And so coordination with them before you start this would be key to make sure that they're not flooding in there. Interestingly, and I can't believe I didn't see this summer, but as I was driving through this evening, I looked over, and I think the Methodist Church had a box out there that said parking $10 a day. So somebody actually already beat you into the fee-for-use market here. And that can be a great strategy for making sure that people don't flee into that. They go around the course, I'll park, this is going to be $10 here, I might as well go down to town hall. More critically, especially if you're going for something like revenue generation, whatever you can do to show that some of that benefit is going back to the community. There is a lot of literature written out there about parking benefit districts, and the whole idea with a parking benefit district is that when you institute paid parking, a certain percentage of those revenues get reinvested back into the community in beautification and improvement projects. And it is a way, again, to take some of the sting off of taking this first step into the market. I hate to say this, but paid parking is often like boiling a frog. If it happens gradually, unfortunately, the frog doesn't ever realize it's boiling until it's too late. So you can ease this transition by being very gradual about it and by giving back to the community at each step of the way. Portsmouth, New Hampshire has been so successful with this that out of their parking fund, they give about $6 million back to the general fund, which pays for crossing guards and beautification projects and parks and all sorts of things. The director up there tells me the last estimate he did was all of the things that they're paying with that excess take about $350 a year off of each household's tax bill, because they're absorbing those costs. It's not coming off of their property tax excessive. You do have spaces, especially in Town Hall, that are marked off for EV and city staff. We're not assuming those are going to be revenue generators going forward, but you will have to think about how you want to manage those to make sure that folks aren't fleeing into those to avoid paying for parking. And then again, the biggest question in the back of my mind is, how does this play with the existing permit system that you've got in place right now? Do they become completely standalone? Do they become integrated? It's not a critical path thing, but it's just something to consider as you talk about going down this road. So, I believe that's everything. Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
I have a question. As we outlined it, at the time we contemplated bringing you in, we set up 5 districts, so to speak, and one of them being the marina. Was anything done by way of determining or trying to determine which areas were going to be more likely to be revenue positive overall, or was that?
That's certainly something that would be easy to go back through the model and extract. I could go back and kind of do an apples-to-apples comparison. We've already got the revenue stream by facility, and it wouldn't be that hard to prorate the costs as far as that goes.
I remember that, when this was being talked about, the general feeling I got from the discussion was that the marina would be the most likely place for at least a trial balloon, and that in town would probably be, I'm just throwing this out there, but something of a non-starter in terms of public reaction to it. And the marina is a kind of in a unique position because it's operated on an enterprise fund. And we're in a particular situation now where we're overcoming quite a number of years of neglect and dealing with infrastructure issues down there. And anything we can do to help the enterprise fund there would be all to the good. And that's, to my mind, is a good starting point. But that's. And the other question I had was, what I didn't hear in terms of the mechanisms for generating, for the various ways of collecting.
Yeah.
In Provincetown, they used to use the method of printing a receipt and putting it on your dash, and then they went from that to using an app. And a lot of places use the app now.
And with most of the meter vendors out there, they actually have a proprietary app, which is part of the package. They're proliferate at this point. There are 7 or 8 different companies that actually specialize in payment apps. And then, like I said, virtually every meter company out there has a proprietary app as well. The other thing that you're seeing now more and more is if somebody doesn't want to download their app but still pay by their phone, most of these systems now have a QR code on them. And you can actually scan the QR code and it will take you to a payment site right there, and you can process your entire transaction through your phone securely without having to download something onto your phone and then customize it.
Right. I see. Okay. Josh?
Thank you. This was a tremendously thorough examination of opportunities. I think, to your point, there's a tremendous amount of community conversation that has to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Just some things that jumped out at me from the analysis was there's a fairly significant CapEx upfront, to install all this infrastructure. But 2/3 of net revenue is coming from fines, which gives me pause. And I'm just trying to understand, because you've clearly done this many times. Is there a reason why we didn't start our base per hour fee higher so that we weren't so reliant on fines to be not underwater on this program?
So, fines and fees are interesting because they go hand in glove. It's carrot and stick. You can't do one without the other. I will also tell you that it varies widely in communities. In how we did the projections for your fines, we looked at what historicals have been in other communities, comparable communities that we've worked in the Northeast. Some of these were resort communities, some of these were year-round communities. My experience, especially in Bar Harbor and Provincetown, is the compliance rate there is substantially higher because you know who violates most often? The locals. They're the ones who get to know the system. They know when Bob's coming by to chalk the tires and check the meters. They're the ones who will work to beat the system. The average tourist comes in and they just assume that if they don't comply, they're going to get nailed. As a result, your actual fee revenue may be higher than what I projected, and your fine revenue may be lower than what I projected simply because of the dynamics of your user base. Unfortunately, I don't have enough information that I can fine tune that to those dynamics at this point in the game.
Sure. And the second part that I'm really glad you brought up was integrating our other parking permits, the systems that we already have, with possibly this program. I think it would be wise for us to assume that we would do that. We have a very tried and true beach sticker program. You can buy beach sticker parking or beach sticker and transfer station combo sticker. Every resident knows they get it for fairly reasonable fee. I think just in terms of getting community engagement, if we're able to bake in an unlimited use flat fee into the beach sticker transfer sticker program, I think we could possibly have more community support and also less of an ongoing hassle from residents of this town to have to pull out their phone, pay by plate, or go to a meter. If we can find a way to those that live in Wellfleet have as frictionless of an experience as possible with this, where if you're a visitor to this town, you're more likely used to paying for parking because you're going to other communities, et cetera, et cetera. So, in terms of how we frame the next steps, I would very much like to see a world where we prioritize local community having as much of a hands-off experience with this as possible, while having our visitors having a very easy experience, but paying their fair share in terms of time.
And that's very common. Bar Harbor does not charge any of their residents for parking. They all have permits that allow them to park in certain areas fee-free throughout the summer. They can't park at the meters right on Main Street fee-free, but they can park right around the corner as far as that goes. Portsmouth has set up a program where residents who come downtown pay a fraction of whatever the going rate is at this point. Because again, the last thing they want to do is create a barrier for those folks. And you also know that those folks are not the folks that are going to be driving your revenues. The folks who are going to be driving your revenues are the summer visitors who are coming in. And you're absolutely right. When we started working with Bar Harbor, one of the things we had to do, but ended up being kind of shooting ourselves in the foot, is we can only do public process during the fall and the spring. During the winter, they're shut down, and during the summer, everybody's way too busy. And so when we started talking about conceptual fees, these folks all had a heart attack because they thought, you're going to charge me that. And then we started working with local chamber of commerce and doing a survey of the folks who would be coming to the area and actually using the system, and realized they were coming from Montreal, New York, Boston. And when we asked them for $1 an hour, they were going to laugh their way down the street because they're used to paying $20 to $30 a crack here, and they wouldn't even blink at it as far as that goes. So,
Barbara?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this goes back to the net that you were telling us about, and that's just year-to-year operating versus that's just for operations, right? And then Josh referred to capital expend. Is that what CapEx is? Capital expenditures. So can you remind me what you pegged that at, that we would have to expend upfront?
152,000. So I had taken, for this modeling exercise, I had taken the capital expenses and actually amortized them out over their life cycle.
Okay.
So for example, the meters have a 7-year life cycle.
Okay.
So you could potentially amortize that initial purchase cost out over 7 years, and that was baked into the operating statement. However, I'm pretty sure both within the report and within these slides, we also give an estimate of what actual purchase costs would be on a per unit basis. And going to something that John mentioned in the previous thing, when we did those per unit estimations, those were all off retail. They weren't necessarily assuming cooperative purchase, so you may be able to get a better deal than what we had estimated initially.
Yeah, okay. No, I appreciate that, and I'm sure I can look back at the report and get more detail. I just want to make sure we think about that too when we tell the public, have a conversation with the public, that it's understood that there will be cost involved in getting the system up and running. But I'd like to thank you for doing your presentation the way you did, which is just speaking to us and not reading PowerPoint slides. So thank you. It couldn't possibly have been more effective, so thank you.
Ryan?
So the analysis, and I wish I had page numbers on it because then I could refer to it. Basically for the revenue projections, you said, it says, Desmond assume when paid parking is introduced or piloted, any resident holding a valid permit will be exempt from having to pay for off-street parking. So I'm assuming that's, kind of referring to the resident beach stickers. And is that correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay, so so the revenue projections is basically based off of non-resident and how they're defined in Wellfleet, at least for the beach sticker program. So like, and I think that's important to note, that this basically assumes that, the resident beach sticker basically covers the permit fee for a resident. And so this is largely transient users that would then be charged. I've seen it become more and more common over time. It's basically things cost money, and areas that previously didn't have meters now. I do think Boston's wicked expensive.
Oh, yeah.
For parking. I do not enjoy
We are
that at all.
number 3 in the country.
But the rates proposed here are fairly reasonable and fairly low. I've had positive and negative experiences in Provincetown. A lot of it depends on exactly where you're parking and what type of parking collection it is. So in some of them, you can park over the number for the space. And so when you get out of the car, you have no way of knowing what number of space you've parked in, unless you go back in and back out the car and pull back in.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's small little things like where you put the numbers of a space really make a huge difference in terms of user experience. And I do think that we definitely need a community process here. I'm not sure exactly what that might look like, and how others have presented this to their community at large. But I mean, we all know that we face the same issues. Things are obviously increasing in cost, and revenues and people's tax bills can only go so much. But there's always a balancing act that needs to be achieved. During certain times of the day, at least for the center of town parking lot, sometimes turnover or lack of turnover becomes an issue. And we already have people checking parking. We have community resource officers and sometimes a fully sworn-in officer doing it. So if we can, free up those officers from doing parking checks, I think that's something that the police department would be highly appreciative of, because that's right in our busiest season. But obviously, as I said, there's a balancing act, and we'll see. So,
Sheila?
It may be in this report, and I apologize if I'm asking. However, did you actually determine how many spaces we have available for this? Or were you able to?
We did. We did.
You counted what we had.
Yeah, we did a starting inventory.
Right, but we could reconfigure some of that, especially at the marina or?
Potentially, yes. And we did not, we did not delve into that type of speculation.
Okay,
Could we get more capacity in here by changing the realignment?
Right.
We just worked off of
what existed.
what was there.
Right, and there's really not a lot of room for more.
Yeah.
That was my question. Thank you.
Just to build on what Josh had asked earlier, the marina in particular, we have boat owners who pay a substantial amount of money for moorings and slips. So if we didn't do a town-wide sticker for local residents, we could bake it into the fees that we pay at the marina to get a sticker to park there.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I'm now recalling a conversation I had maybe 6 months ago. In your analysis of the marina, did you come across any requirements of the town of Wellfleet being required to provide a certain number of spaces to boaters because of our relationship with the federal government?
No, I didn't.
Someone help me out here.
We received a Seaport Economic Council grant for the boat ramp at the marina. Because it was state money, it has to be available to the general public.
Okay.
And they had set up a number of spaces that we have to provide for people who may, to utilize that boat ramp.
Those are the boats with the trailer spaces.
Yeah, those are
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily. Yes, it could be, or it could be just, somebody's bringing their boat and they're going to launch it.
Okay.
And we have to give so many spaces for free that the state requires.
Okay, that was not.
And it's not a big deal. I
yeah.
think, we were putting an ice machine in one spot that took a couple, we had to add them down the other side to keep it even. So, but because we received that, we do have a certain amount of spaces that we have to reserve. And they can't be charged for.
I think those are primarily those long trailer
long
spaces.
ones, right.
Thank you. I was trying to remember where it was in the schematic.
Yeah, and with the long ones, when those were occupied, our assumption was those were not folks we would look at and think of as typical transients.
Right.
We erred to the side of conservatism and said, we're going to assume that those are locals and they would not be people who would be paying for parking.
Certainly our commercial, any of our commercial shell fishermen or fishermen, that park there, we certainly want to make sure they're taken care of as well. Mr. Chairman, could I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah, sure.
If the board doesn't have any more?
Yeah.
I don't understand why we're utilizing meters in 2026. Most of the places that I go to now, they've gotten rid of the meters, and it's either pay by plate or still the kiosks. The kiosks are getting old, but the pay by plate is what is becoming, what I see anyways, on main streets, maybe not parking lots. I always, as a town administrator, I hate cash. The less cash we have floating around, the better off we are. And I'm wondering if we could go cashless.
You can't.
Okay.
There is a blue law in the books that says any type of retail sales, you have to have a mechanism in place to accept cash payment, which includes parking transactions.
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking, I'm looking at a city of Northampton as an example. I don't see a cash option when I go there. But
Actually, I just finished engagement. There is a cash option
I
there.
missed
If
it
you
then.
show up and you can't afford to pay at one of the kiosks, you can call a button and they will dispatch somebody who can literally take the cash, log the transaction right there.
Well, Northampton is a customer service friendly town.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Massachusetts blue laws just really
I know. All right.
make our lives so much easier in some ways.
And in this report, you're assuming all lots are going to be utilized that you looked at, correct?
Right now, when you're looking at those revenue numbers, you're looking at the assumption of adoption across the way. That goes back to John's question.
Right.
Could we break this out and look at it as an individual pilot? And the answer is we could probably back into some numbers there.
Yeah. One of the hopes is that, especially down at the marina, if we can utilize the revenues after expense.
Right.
For that enterprise fund, to help that enterprise fund because it's struggling. That's really one of the main areas that we're looking at, and getting turnover, especially the lot across from Pres Hall and Town Hall. And I know the select board's going to have different opinions on what we should do in those lots, and the policy will come from them. But if we can get more turnover, it would be helpful. Thank you for the report, too.
Actually, can we go back to your meter question? Because I did want to explain that.
Yeah.
Because it's a common one that I hear. A lot of the communities that are doing away with all of their meters and going to just pay by apps, are communities where you have fairly regular and consistent users coming into those areas.
Yeah.
So you can train them, for lack of a better term, on that new system,
Right.
and you don't have to incur that infrastructure. In your case, I assume we were going to go with the meters because of the vast variety of folks that you come in as tourists and patrons during the season, and again, that's intuitive. Everybody knows how to use.
I'm just worried about the salt air and especially at the marina with, weather and.
Well, I was going to say, in the off-season, you can, in the off-season, you can bag all of these. They're all pretty watertight, weatherproof. You can bag them in the off-season to preserve them. You don't necessarily have to pick them up, uninstall them, put them in storage someplace. So there are some factors there.
Thank you,
against it.
thank you.
Excuse me, Tom, if I may, were you, are you referring to like a meter on every spot? Like a
Well, there's
metal-
different ways that there can be centralized meters, it can be individual
There's usually like a
meters.
kiosk you walk over to, put your number in.
That was
That's-
our assumption,
That's the,
yeah.
that's
Same
the
as a
meter
pay and
type
display
you're
then.
talking about. the
Yeah,
meter.
but both of them can be subject to intrusion by air, water, et cetera. And the best thing I can say about the industry is they've had those accidents happen so many times, they've gotten really good at waterproofing these and making sure that there are environmental controls in them to protect against that.
Okay, thank you, and this was well done,
Yeah, it
thank
really
you.
is very well
done. Very well done.
This is our best parking study. That we've had done.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions?
Okay.
All right, well, thank you
Thank you.
for a job well done.
Right.
Driving back to Cow Hampshire tonight?
Just.
Yes, sir.
Oh, God.
If
Sorry
you
to keep
have
you so late.
any examples of communities that have done a really good job of discussing this with their residents, that would be helpful. It's much easier to copy than it is to
reinvent the wheel.
Yes.
Now, through the chair, I've got on my notes, community process C. Falmouth, that's my first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
And I would encourage you to reach out to Ben Fletcher in Portsmouth.
Yeah.
They went, in 20 years, they went from, we're never going to build a garage in downtown, to they're planning to build their third one at this point, out of necessity, just because the area continues to grow and develop. Trying to think who else has been really good at this process. Unfortunately, the folks who got Provincetown up and running have all retired or gone elsewhere.
Yeah,
Let me think about it. I think I could, Rob Fine, Virginia Beach, Virginia. He's the director of parking down there.
Okay. No. That's my environmental workshop.
I'm taking a business trip to inspect your paid parking opportunities.
Well, yeah, you could go down and talk to the folks in Boca Grande, Florida, too, while you're at it.
Yeah, I don't care.
Careful, I went to New Orleans and it was 28 degrees.
When we used to go with the Rural Development Council, we'd have these conferences all over the country, and there were 6 of us that would do environmental workshops, which was making sure that the local links was okay and the holes were taking the balls okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, one of those. Okay.
Well, thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much,
Thank you.
folks.
Thank you.
Be safe and stay awake.
And on to
Yeah, let's move on.
business item E, Tom, to discuss the town's operating budgets.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is very short because we really need to sit down and have a budget session. Okay, that's not what this is at 9 o'clock at night. Couple of things. One is, one is that if, I said it earlier, if you have questions related to the budget, line items, and any of it, please.
Excuse me, Mr. Town Administrator, if I may. Excuse me. Wait. Take it outside. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Town Administrator.
That's okay, thank you. If you have questions on the budget or a particular line item or a section of the budget for whatever reason, please try to get those questions to us so that we can be prepared when we come to a meeting for an answer. Okay, that would be helpful. All of the budgets, when you get the budget book and when the Finance Committee gets our budget book, all of the breakdowns of salaries and by position, not by name, are collected and available. This is a different format than we used last year. I've noted that before for this purpose. And it's a lot easier to read, and we did mention this to the Finance Committee during the joint meetings last year, that we were going to be looking at a different format. Mr. Conroy and I have not sat down since our first meeting, and we need to do that again. He reached out today, and we are going to set up some time to talk. I think one of the things, and I've mentioned this before, if you're adding something, something's got to come away from somewhere else, because there just isn't a lot left. We've moved some of the more human service related areas, part of it, were more than last year, to an article from town meeting. I know we want to continue to fund these, but this is just another mechanism to do that. And we'll be, as I said earlier, we'll be looking at the sewer department for Lawrence Hill, although we're getting some good numbers from Ty and Bond. They're pulling in some good numbers for us. But we're going to be starting up before the fiscal year as well. So we've got some issues with that. But what we're going to do is try to fund it for the first at least 6 months or so, for the first cycle, maybe the first year, out of a free cash, so we can see what the flows are. We can see what the cost of the chemicals are in real time as opposed to estimates. And then when we go into FY28, we're going to, or halfway through FY27, we'll have to see how it works. If we have enough data by then, we'll be able to just roll it into a user fee system and work. But Ty and Bond, Ryan, Christian Berry, and Ian have been doing a lot of work to try to get this up for us, and there's that. Now, the school, I'll do that in my report. I'll wait for my report. So just if you have questions, get them to either John or myself, or both of us preferably. And because I will, yes, thank you. Or sometimes my emails just go missing, which is sad.
I have one very simple question, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. When you say human services, can you?
Scholarships.
Okay.
Is an area. We funded it, I believe, at $366,000 is what we spent in the prior fiscal year, the past fiscal year. The request, we've been funding it at about 314. The request came in at 496. I don't remember. I'd have to look, but there's about a $66,000 or $67,000 variance that we need to do. So it's not big stuff. It's just we're trying to.
No, my question wasn't so much directed in what's the delta between what we have and what we need. More so, when you say human services, what are those actual programs?
Yeah, those are the scholarship programs for the preschool. Some of the other human social. Yeah. Maybe it could be the podiatrist. It could be, those types of things that come in that we're looking at. We got to break it down, but we know what the number is.
We pay for a podiatrist?
Not necessarily, but we pay fees to like VNA.
Understood.
And they bring in those types of specialists.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have one question. So how hard can you squeeze the pennies, because they're not making them anymore?
I kept the last one. I have the last one. It's and you'll see this is the case in a number of communities. One community from a different part of the state, they've gotten rid of all the human service organization finances. I mean, that's not what we do here. Okay, that's not what we do here. So we've got to, it's important that we continue those types of services. And but there's not a lot of fluff in the budget, and there's not a lot of room to move stuff around.
Yep.
All right.
So that would be all for that tonight, Mr. Chairman, given the hour.
Yeah, I'm going to move it on to John to give the board and the public an update on the ice machine.
Okay, I'll do this in record time. So I gave the same update to the Marine Advisory Committee last night. So I think at my last update, I explained that we've kind of pivoted to going back to the original idea, which was utilizing the storage units / Connex boxes, with the caveat that if they don't fit into the character of the town, we can add siding after the fact to retrofit them accordingly. So that being said, we still have the issue of the funding and the procurement and the timing of all of that, because we do not want to go another summer without having these in place. So we've issued a emergency waiver letter to DCAM, Division of Capital Asset Management, and there's one more acronym there. I haven't heard back from them yet. If they do award us or do issue the waiver, that will allow us to kind of avoid the prolonged procurement process and go with a more expedited version of it, which is just soliciting quotes rather than maybe a 6 to 8 week procurement process with a sealed bid element at the end. If we get the waiver, that will allow us a path forward, and we can then solicit hard numbers from a few companies that do this on a regular basis. That will allow us to go to the nonprofit, the Wellfleet Oyster Alliance, with the proposal, with the numbers, with the idea of how the money is going to be spent, with the details of how the money will be spent. And that's the plan. So just waiting for the DCAM response. Once we have that, that will allow us to open up the door, the next door, and the next door, with the hope that we have this done by the spring.
Okay. Select board reports. Does anybody have any?
With the board's permission, maybe I should just submit the written correspondence for these last 2 weeks, or would the board prefer if I read it?
I think at this hour, we could afford to have you submit it.
I think that's reasonable. Thank you. Allow me a day just to clean up my notes so that it's, consistent. Thank you.
And anyone else?
Well, what I did do is on my other position, we did meet with the town of Falmouth, and it was something I was going to share. The town of Falmouth did do a community-wide conversation. It was initiated by the Board of Selectmen about ice and people's feelings about what's going on and their concerns about the community, and it was led pretty much by the police chief as well. So it is online. You can access that meeting on YouTube. It was very informative, and it actually was very positive. So I just thought I'd throw that out there to the board to think about, do we want to maybe open up that type of conversation in the future as well. But I thought it was a really well-done community practice, and I think it even kind of brought the community together and had a real conversation. And then there were just all the other concerns that we have here, dredging and parking didn't come up, but the usual, the funding for the different items, and the one big thing that they called out, and I saw that they got a grant, is the pine beetle. The small pine beetle is on its way. It's something that can decimate pine trees, which we have. I mean, they're scrub pines, but they are our trees, and can just wipe out areas very quickly. It's a big thing in Martha's Vineyard. Martha's Vineyard is getting whacked in a lot of things there. They get the tick, and now they have the beetle, and now it's in Falmouth. So it's just a matter of time. So I'm just giving forewarning on that. But it was a good conversation, and it was, but the community conversation is online for you to see. Both things are.
The beetles are here.
Yeah.
I lost a pine tree
right.
to them, I want to say 5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get.
So we have to be on the lookout. But they did get a grant from Natural Resources or something, but they are trying to weed out some of their trees in between. There's a whole process that they're going through. And I'm sure it's something that we'd have to have a conversation with the seashore on as well.
how they're handling it.
Okay. Anyone else?
Probably say they don't exist.
No, they'll say they exist.
Well, I'd say with the current administration.
Nothing. Well, maybe they'll just let them sit there and hopefully.
Well, we just lost that grant.
Yeah, I know. No, there's still money out there, believe it or not, if we can just maybe not let them know.
Yes.
No, it's sad.
Yeah, town administrator?
Yeah, I have a few things, and I will keep it short. I'll cut it down. Both Sheila and I attended the MMA Connect 351 last week. I hadn't been in quite a while, and I was glad I went. The sessions I went to were good. The networking that I went to was good. This was the first time I'd been to the Seaport Convention Center. That place is enormous.
Get a lot of exercise.
It's huge.
I got my
It's
steps
too
in.
big.
I got my steps in.
The boat show was.
Yeah.
I took my kids to the boat show.
Secondly, and Ryan hit it earlier this meeting, but I do want to give a shout out to the DPW, the police, the fire, marina, shellfish, all of those folks that have to be out in the weather or monitoring during this storm. It was not a fun storm. DPW just did an outstanding job. Jay and his crew, he wanted to send them home for a while, and they just said, no, let's stay till we finish it up. And they just did an outstanding job, and we have a really good DPW, and we're lucky for that. The union negotiations are moving forward. We're closing in our third session with one of the police units. We're having our second session with the fire. We're meeting again, second session with the dispatchers. That's going. We're starting up with the Teamsters and WEA, and I'll start also this week. There's a lot of heavy lifts that we're going to have to talk about, but we are doing we're looking at the comparables, we're looking at what we can hopefully afford, and make our folks as close to whole as we can with our neighboring communities, because we are running a little light in public safety. I'll leave it at that at this point. The other thing I wanted to do, the harbor, the harbor master and his crew, there were some posts on Facebook. I don't go on the community page, but it was forwarded to me. I requested a report on a response to that just for my purposes. It ended up going to a lot of different places, but I was quite satisfied with the report and the work that the harbor master had done. They had in fact been down there. They were down there quite a bit. And when the ice comes in like this, sometimes you can get it and sometimes you can't. And there's a lot of ice out there. There's a lot of ice. But he actually, he and David and the crew were there, and they did what they needed, did what they could do. Okay. I think I've mentioned in emails to the board in the past few weeks, maybe a couple of months, we've been having difficulties finding an auditor. CBIZ is not doing our audit again. They've dropped a number of towns for whatever reason. That's a business decision. We've gone through the back channels of trying to get people in, because it's one of those you don't have to bid. We weren't getting any action. We have got it out to bid right now, as recommended, and as of today, there are no takers. I have reached out to Sean Cronin at up at the state, at the Department of Local Services, who's forwarding. We're not the only ones. That's one of the things that I don't feel good about it, but I feel better that there's several. It's more than one hand. It's a couple of three hands worth. So he's reached out to his the secretary or the assistant secretary or commissioner, and they're going to get back to us. There's a number of towns in this issue. We're not standing out there by ourselves. We didn't do anything wrong. nothing was wrong, it's just that, we had some issues with the timing with them with the audit, but as far as the audit's concerned, it was clean, and our exceptions were cut by about a third, just in a year. So, it's getting better. But getting somebody in, I looked to CLA, but we can't use Clifton Larson Allen because they are doing the Herring River, so they're conflicted. Yeah, so that's all. I did attend the school budget session, at least part of it. I didn't stay for the whole thing. At the high school last week, the superintendent did a fabulous job in his presentation. I had a good chat with Adam O'Shea as well. The elementary school is coming in a little bit higher than what I had anticipated and what I had plugged in, but there are some reasons for that. Pre-K is being devolved to the local communities as opposed to a district type, and that's adding some cost. But Adam and I are going to sit down and we're going to try to find the middle and see what we can do, because there's about a $300,000 gap right now.
And you have other meetings, there's other meetings, if I may, coming up on the school.
Well, there's the Efficiency and Regionalization Committee that's meeting in Brewster, I think next.
I thought it was next week.
Next Thursday, I believe.
Right, I think they're next week.
Yeah, I know, I know. But that's on the audits, yeah. We've beaten every bush we know.
Just to keep on with the school, I did meet Martha, and she did tell me that you were there, but she said none of you were there, and I needed one of you there. So we have to communicate, make sure one of us are there at these school meetings.
I don't schedule you folks, I send you the information.
I know. And I have to say, because it was the storm week, and I didn't get really dug out until Friday, I still was, it was an odd week, but I really felt bad that
But Glenn Brand and all of the people, the principals of both of the high school and the middle school, and of course Adam's excellent, we're lucky to have him, but they just really did a good job.
Okay.
Elementary school's up around 9 to 10%. I believe, if I'm right, the district high school was up 2.99 net. And the middle school was somewhere in the 2.5 to 3.25 range. I don't rightly remember, but that wasn't the assessment. That was just but they did it was an excellent presentation. Okay. So it's worth going. That will do it for tonight, I think.
Okay. Topics for future discussion. There's what I brought up with revisiting the requirement for bringing letters before the select board. So we'll talk about getting that on an agenda.
Yeah, policy discussion. I love that. I have one.
Monty Python.
I think it's good time for us to revisit the short-term rental registration regulations.
That was on for March 3rd.
Terrific.
Oh, okay.
Fabulous. Thank you. That's my
Barbara first.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we lost Gary on Maurice's, which means we have a vacancy. And it was suggested earlier that we appoint a certain person to that position, which I don't think is the way to go about it. I think we advertise that there's an opening, but also advertise that there's an alternate, or whatever we call let's say alternate, in case someone who's an alternate gets appointed to the full position. So I guess I'd ask that March 3rd, we put it on the agenda for March 3rd. And,
yeah,
but then.
There have been no applications to come in to be moved up or anything.
Right.
I was asked by certain people if that's how it worked, and I said no, an application had to be submitted.
Right, but I think we should broadcast that there is an opening for a full member and for potentially an alternate member, and just try to get the word out there to recruit, and then in March, or longer, maybe another couple weeks after that, have it on our agenda.
Well, John and I were just talking, we'll put a quick 2-paragraph press release in the Independent.
Great. Yep, thank you. Yeah, just like, again, also to thank Gary for his, contributions, and
Yes.
also the Maurice's committee in general for just plugging along with this, because it's a very difficult task. So, thank you.
I've already talked to Tom about this, but an article for town meeting to establish a year-round housing trust, it could have the same membership as the Affordable Housing Trust, or not. That's something for the board to discuss. But I think that it shouldn't be very controversial to establish the year-round housing trust, and that would allow basically to hold deed restrictions on properties above what is currently allowed in terms of AMI. You can go up to 250%. And, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Anyone else?
No.
I'm going to make a note of that.
I'm sorry.
I would also just, for administration, if people have warrant ideas for warrant articles, the sooner that you can let them know, the better. Nobody really likes, getting an article 2 weeks before it's going to close or something like that. So if you have individual articles that you would like to, I would strongly encourage board members to discuss it with administration.
And I sent out to department heads and to all boards, chairs, and committee members that they need to have their warrant articles in ASAP. Indicated dates that I don't remember.
You should.
No,
No, I'm done.
I think we're on.
We're done.
Are we done with the,
Yep.
Yep.
okay, let's move on to minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Got, January 20th and 28th.
yeah.
Eighth, yeah.
I have amendments to January 20th, and I think it would be best if we move the January 28th minutes to our next meeting.
26, you mean?
I'm sorry?
26, you mean?
It says 28.
The 28th,
Oh, it should say
26,
Oh,
excuse
no,
me.
it's the 28th.
No, 20th, yeah, okay.
Well, it's usually the 26th.
We have no idea at this point.
If
Since like the 1st of December, it's just been crazy.
I'm sorry, Josh, we had it originally scheduled for 26th.
Okay, it's all good.
Go ahead.
There were a few very nuanced conversations for a few of the hearings. I tried to find time to go back. I think that most of the conversation was well captured. I think there are a few parts that I would like to have a little more time on. Minutes are important. And so if the board would entertain us tabling the January 28th minutes to the next meeting, I'd like to think about it a little bit more.
Okay.
I'd support that.
Yeah, I'm going to abstain from both of those because I wasn't here.
And I will admit to not being prepared on either of them, so if there's a chance of moving them to the next, both of
You want to
them.
move both?
If we
That's a good
could,
idea.
with your indulgence, and I apologize for that.
Do
I was
we
out
need
of
a
town.
motion?
No,
Nope.
Okay,
no action.
all right, then,
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
roll call vote.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I'll wait till everybody's voted.
I want to thank everyone in the audience that held on. I see there's
Oh, there's
still
some
quite a few
people still
people,
on
so
there.
have a good evening.
Die Hards.
John, aye.
Sheila, aye. I'm not waiting.
Josh,
I say aye.
Josh, aye. Thought I already voted.
I know, Ryan, I always wait for you.
I know.
I voted
It's
first.
John.
No, I know, but
did,
sometimes I'm waiting, like,
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
I thought you said you were waiting.
I'm
Oh, I
waiting.